What's up? Ghost Fictions is here, and we're back again. This is the part 9 of a story where Izuku became the shadow hero. But before we start, please consider subscribe to the channel and give this video a like. Don't forget to check the description for more information. Now, let's get into part 9. Devil of Lust. But that the duo with the shadow army clashed, more shadows needed to be reformed, but at the same time a lot of devils were being taken down. The main weapon of the Lust devils against humans was their main ability, Lust. They had the ability of making the humans become attracted to them, making the devils have full control over the humans. This was something that the system couldn't protect Izuku fully. Star was using one of the slots of New Order to become resistant to this power. Damn it, why am I wanting to be attracted to them? Izuku muttered. I have the same problem, this is really getting on my nerves. Kath grumbled to herself. Ignoring the physical strength and the might of their weapon style, the duo had to concentrate whilst ignoring the lustful urges. Luckily the shadows stepped in, especially a pissed of Gabriel that wanted to smash some heads of what they are doing to her lover and liege. It was another minute when that group was cut. Literally Igris was pissed for some reason and used a blast of power with Michal's longsword and cut them in two. Skill. Hand-to-hand combat leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Smiling at his progress with his hand-to-hand, Izuku continued to walk forward. Whilst the USA visit seems to be hectic, he was learning about running an agency properly. This was good as he may be planning on opening an agency with Rumi in the future. More devils of lust appeared with them being defeated soundly by Izuku's shadows, but it also helped that both Kathleen and himself are slowly getting resistant to the lustful urges. It was over 7 hours when they found their way to the next circle of hell. Now the duo were resting before they could enter the next circle. Both drank some water and had a light meal that Izuku produced. Neither of them were tired, so they decided to finish the third circle of hell before they went to sleep. So you are saying that a lot of dungeon breaks are occurring due to the shortage of heroes? Star just sighed and nodded. Most of them are happening in secluded areas where the monsters wander and kill the humans. Island is in the process of developing a way to locate gates around the world, but how did you do it before South Korea announced it? Before the S-rank gate, there were not that many in the world. It was pretty simple, and most of them were D-ranks gates, so I could send one of my stronger shadows. I mostly dealt with the higher ranks, but occasionally went into the lower ranked. Izuku explained, although I feel bad about Vladimir. Russia has a lot of unoccupied and gates like to spawn and break. Russia will have a monster forest from the seams of it. Not only Russia, Brazil and other countries that have a lot of landmass, but the number of heroes are low. Izuku just nodded to the explanation. It also sucks that over 15 million people died from the gate break already. That was a sad fact. Due to the hero shortage, the civilians are now also able to help in lower ranked gates, but it was sometimes not enough. Imagine the number of casualties if you haven't helped the gate readers, especially if you haven't given them out, then a lot of heroes would have died. Izuku just nodded once again whilst sitting on a rock looking at the dark sky of hell. Yeah. The sky had a purple tint to it and the stars are shining brighter, even compared to the secluded mountain in Canada he had a date on. Good night, the shadows will be keeping us safe. With that Izuku took out his sleeping bag whilst giving a larger one to Star and fell asleep. Next gate day. Izuku woke up, blinking the sleep away. He saw a notification that surprised him greatly. You leveled up. He also now saw that per level his HP rises 250 then 200, whilst his MP rises by 60. Although, if the stat rises up by 1 then he gains an additional 40 HP and 30 MP, compared to the 20 HP and 10 MP. Smirking, he started to prepare some food for both himself and Kathleen. Another 30 minutes passed until the both of them continued towards the third circle of hell, named the Circle of Gluttony. Of course with it they found devils, but had a rounder appearance with mostly clubs and shields. Devil of Gluttony. They were easy to defeat, but they did have a nullification of some sort. Burrow was going crazy, gaining more physical nullification from it. The Angel Squad were acting happier, especially Gabriel, Raphael, Uriel and Zadkiel. Izuku theorized it was because they are fighting against devils, their supposed enemy. It took them only 6 hours as both Izuku and Kathleen wanted to get to the outside world, not wanting to stay here longer than needed. Igris and Baruka during this time were gaining in levels at a higher rate compared to others. It might be because of their competitive nature. When they saw the gates of the next circle, they were blocked by a large devil. The size of it was just smaller than Tusk, but it was quickly and efficiently defeated by Izuku and Kathleen. Skill. Shadow Manipulation leveled up from LV.6 to LV.max. Skill. Black Whip leveled up from LV.4 to LV.max. Skill. Shadow Manipulation LV.max and Skill. Black Whip LV.max combined and evolved into Skill. Darkness Overlord LV.1. New skill has been evolved. Skill. Darkness Overlord LV.1, active, evolved. The combination of the skill. Shadow manipulation and skill. Black Whip, second gift from All Might's predecessors, evolved into a superior control over darkness and its shadows. But this new evolution, he could control a larger area, and he used that to efficiently cut down the devils from the fourth circle. Devil of Greed. They wore more expensive armor and weapons, but they were nothing compared to Izuku's power over the shadows. Talking about the shadows, during the fighting he occasionally had to approve the promotions to a higher class. Some became knights, elite knights, and some even captains. Now he's starting to become interested about the higher ranks. Burrow and Mikao, the three-face high-end Nomu, were neck to neck trying to see who is better, similar to Baruka and Igris, but to a much more destructive way. Luckily for Izuku, Gabriel could make them calm down without Izuku needing to do a thing. The same thing happened in the circle, like in the previous one, a large devil that sat on the throne stood in front of them. Izuku didn't need to do anything as Star and Gabriel took the devil down after looking at the two women like they were prizes to be won. This day Izuku found out about a woman's furry. Years later he could still feel the shivers seeing the angry looks that Kathleen and Gabriel gave to the devil. The next circle was called the fifth circle of anger. This time the devils were empowered with the emotion anger, allowing a boost in stats to be given to them. Their names only became a dark gray, but nothing too serious, completely ignoring that this was an S-rank gate and that multiple S-rank heroes could have been easily killed here. Devil of Anger. Izuku was still annoyed that he couldn't make any of the fallen devils into his shadows, but ignored it as he knew that sometimes quality is better than quantity. The devils had a reddish tint to their skin, and their black bat-like wings had red veins going through them whenever they used a skill. Power of Anger. Now after defeating the large red devil again with ease, the duo decided to make it a day. It was a surprise that they finished 3 circles of in a day, but it was to no surprise when one had over 500 shadows with 2 national ranked heroes. The Monarch was mostly ignoring the notifications as he had fun talking to Gabriel and Star during the time they were killing of the devils. So now checking, he was surprised that one of his skills gone up. Skill. Fire Manipulation leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. During the fighting though, Izuku had exchanged the Rocket Gauntlet, C rank, that was one of his first armor, into a A rank gauntlet. Devil's Gauntlet. Item class. A. Type. Gauntlet. Attack. Plus 80. Defense. 6%. Gauntlet that can cover your right hand. It is perfect for attacks and defense. It grants the user the power to use their anger to create a 30% stronger punch. Can be equipped, stored, or sold. Effect Devil's Punch. When angered, the user can enhance their punch by 30%. It was a red gauntlet with some minor claws, but had a green gemstone on the dorsal side, other side of the palm. With that, the lowest armor he had were B ranked. He could invest in a higher set, but that is a plan for later. Kathleen was in all honesty treating this as a vacation, where she could relax and get some of her pent-up frustration out. She could go all out, and even Izuku had to admit she would be hard to beat, all because of her quirk. Now resting up, she reflected the change in her life after meeting Izuku. From the assignment from the government to get him to work for USA, which was partially done, to being interned under her for 3 weeks, then occasionally after that. Kathleen had a smile before she went to sleep. Yeah, Izuku was like a brother to her, and she would protect him even if he didn't need to. That is what big sisters are for. Next gate day. They had 4 more circles to complete, and so far Kathleen's prediction wasn't coming, but once again, we all know that riders love messing with their subjects. So the 6th circle of Heresy. Devil of Heresy. Those devils had cloaks on them, and elemental attacks up to low S rank didn't work, but shadow attacks surprisingly worked. Now this time both Kathleen and Izuku started to use their flying abilities to train aerial combat. With Izuku only spending 1 MP per second to fly with the skill. Flight. He quickly leveled up that skill to LV.3, allowing him to fly and maneuver faster in the air. Although the cost was there still, but he didn't mind using 60 MP per minute or the 14,000 MP for the 4 hours, but in reality he used around 12,000 MP due to his high magician's ring, regenerating 10 MP per minute. Skill Flight leveled up from LV.1 to LV.2. Skill Flight leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. You could see that with that amount of MP usage that he would have leveled up that skill. The final mini-boss was a devil, although Gabriel took it down due to her going forward with a group of shadows. The third last circle, the 7th circle Violence, Izuku decided to try and improve his passive skills. From getting caught in a fire multiple times, much to the anger of Gabriel and Star, to fighting hand to hand with devils who were high with violence, and using Samahata to skin some of the devils off. Devil of Violence. The spear was used to make a circle with the use of skill. Spear throw to the mini-boss level devil who had master control of demolishing their surroundings. During the 5 hours, only his skill. Hand-to-hand expert level increased. Izuku was wondering if all of his skills had an experience bar to show how much experience he needs at leveling a skill up. Skill. Hand-to-hand expert leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. Now the duo were resting for lunch. Hey Izuku, what did you mean by the gate was calling for you before? Should I tell her or not? Fuck it. Izuku stared straight into the eyes of Star and spoke, what I will tell you needs to be kept secret. After receiving a nod from her, Izuku continued, only Nezu, as always sensei, All Might, a detective, my girlfriend's roomie otherwise known as Maruko and Nijire no, finally 3 friends Shoko, Heiin and Katsumi. But that he explained from All Might punching him to awakening it and the truth about the gates and his shock about the one in South Korea. Izuku told her that Gabriel is one of his girlfriends too. It was quite a shock for Kathleen, but she only had respect for Izuku. They continued towards the 8th circle, the circle of frauds. The devils looked friendly at the beginning, but soon shown their true colors by trying to kill them. Devil of fraud. Those devils acted like assassins, they worked in pairs and took the duo 8 hours to finally complete the circle, due to monsters failing in ambushing the duo. A surprise was when Gabriel came to Izuku asking for a promotion, he of course accepted, and now he had a general. Gabriel LV.1, General, Seraphim. Now with the rise of power, Gabriel was the undisputed second in command in the army, earning the rank of a general. She also received a hug and a kiss from Izuku, which she enjoyed a lot. You have unlocked a new rank. You have only unlocked 6 ranks. Normal to elite to knight to captain to general. Normal. Their strength is C rank. Their level cap is LV.10, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite. Their strength is B rank. Their level cap is LV.20. Then you need to upgrade them manually. Knight. Their strength is A rank. Their level cap is LV.30, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite Knight. Their strength is low to mid S rank. Their level cap is 40, then you need to upgrade them manually. Captain. Their strength is high S rank to low national level. Their level cap is 50, then you need to upgrade them manually. General. Their strength is mid to high national level. Their level cap is 60, then you need to upgrade them manually. Deciding it to be better for them to rest up, as they aren't mentally tired yet, they had some late night dinner, and after 30 minutes got ready to conquer the last circle of hell. Last circle. It was freezing, ice all around them much to their shock. They expected it to be hotter than the other floors, but it wasn't true. Like fate liked to fuck with people, Kathleen was cursing under her breath after seeing their lone opponent. Demon King Baron. Izuku had his eyes open slightly, seeing the same monster he thought that Ashborn killed. This time it was a demon, not a devil, who was riding on top of a dragon-type monster. Pacelin the Wyvern. Oh, that is a wyvern. I wonder if my wish of having a shadow that I can fly on can actually happen. Izuku thought with miniature stars in his eyes, forgetting that he could teleport to a place in 3 ways, Kamui Shadow Exchange Kalki's power, or even fly with his skill. The name was appearing orange for Baron whilst grey for the Wyvern. In the corner of his eye he could see Kathleen gulp, but got prepared anyways. Demon King Baron is using the skill. Hell's Army. Dozens of black framed portals with a purple smoke emanating from the center. Devil soldiers have been summoned. Devil soldiers have been summoned. Devil soldiers have been summoned. Then hundreds, thousands of devils started to appear from all around them, having any name of the devil of lust, a devil of greed, and so on. All of them are low S rank, and there are a couple of thousand of them. We are lucky we have Izuku's army, as I am not made for a group fight. Kathleen thought and got her sword out. After the system gate with Izuku, she realized that she needed a new way to fight the monsters. For villains it was simple, but there are less of the villains nowadays. Just from a glance I can see more than 1,000 devils. Izuku looked around, only Gabriel was standing behind the human duo, whilst every shadow of Izuku's was in his shadow. The devils started to rush from all around. Izuku. Kathleen muttered. Wait. They continued to come closer, not yet, then a large black circle started to spread out from Izuku. Skill. Domain of the Monarch, and with that skill used he shouted, come forth. Every devil in the circle was cut down to pieces in the blink of an eye from the surprise attack of the shadows. Wow. Star could only mutter in awe. Fluffy, Tusk, the scorpions and other large shadows appeared and started taking down the larger of the devils. Once again Igris was competing with Baruka, but due to Pain's almighty push, 1/3 of the army was no more. Tusk is using skill. Hymn of Combustion. The magic Surlis appeared in front of Tusk, and with the orb of liberation in his hand, another part of the devil army was burnt. Suddenly Baron started to have his eyes glow red and what seemed to be electricity coming out of its mouth. He shot the electricity up in the air whilst still riding the wyvern. A lightning storm appeared, breaking a lot of the ice and some shadows in the process. It is no ordinary lightning. Izuku thought to himself as he started get rid of Star's buff. Status effect has been removed due to effective immunity. The purple-tinted shadows continued to take the army down, but in a more subdued way whilst Izuku was off to fight Baron. Taking his Kusanagi and vampire killer, he was ready to take a wing of the wyvern, but Baron's blade was barely holding Izuku from cutting it. Using skill. Flighty hovered a little away from the Demon King. Using skill. Fire manipulation on his Kusanagi, he slashed again, cutting the sword by a third. Taking this, he threw the dagger at Baron, whilst taking out his spear and throwing it, piercing the wyvern's chest by the use of spear throw. With Kaiselin down, the Baron had to fight Izuku on the ground, so the Monarch used skill. Sprint to cause some slashes at the monster and finally taking one of its arms off. Baron concentrated electricity in his mouth and shot it towards Izuku, getting the notification from his danger sense. He jumped away. He took the close combat route, but once again Baron shot electricity at him, but thanks to Tusk with his fire magic it was deflected. Star and Stripe during this time was dealing with the grunts that could take a S-rank hero down. She looked over at Izuku and just shook her head, seeing him just playing with his opponent. Oi, Izuku, get serious. When he heard that, Izuku just smirked, using skill. Bloodlust. With the pressure caused by his gravity manipulation, he could see that Baron was barely standing. Using his sprint ability and infusing his sword with fire manipulation, with activating his Sharingan. Star could see the power emanating from him when he was going full out, but was shocked when Izuku's power output still continued to grow. The green had used Darkness Overlord to make shadow whips, and now activating his Mangekyou, he showed the Susanoo with the darkness coming out of it in waves. Finally, to make it an overkill, he had both blue and red to the sides of him hovering lazily. Now Star understood Izuku's power, at large, and the size of him made her neck hurt. Baron on the other hand was sweating, so with a point with a finder, the Susanoo spear was lit on fire, and with all of his power thrusted it to Baron, who exploded in a million pieces. Then he was burnt to the crisp, and finally turned into nothing from the red and blue attack. Kathleen had her mouth wide open seeing this. You leveled up. You defeated Demon King Baron. That was probably overkill. With that, the shadows started to collect the devil corpses so he could earn some gold, but then saw an item. Discovered item. Demon King's longsword. Darling Izuku heard from a distance and smiled, then sweat dropped seeing his girlfriend bringing the wyvern's core to him. Thanks, Tenshi. A proud smile was on his face, causing a slight blush to appear on the angel's face. Arise. The shadow of the wyvern started to come out, all black with blue underbelly, claws, horns, eyes and bottom of its wings. I can never get enough of you doing this. Kathleen commented. Choose a name for the soldier. Was it Wyvern Caecilian? Karkalin? What was its name again? Ah, Kaesel. With that, the shadow's name changed into Kaesel, and then a mighty roar was produced from the wyvern's mouth. Looking around, he stated, great work everyone. If anyone needs a promotion, please come forth. After promoting some of his soldiers, he took Star's shoulder and used Kamui to get out of the gate in front of where it used to stand. Kaesel LV.1, Elite Knight. Now outside. It was a couple of hours for the people to wait, and then suddenly Izuku and Kathleen swirled into existence, quickly deactivating the Sharingan. He waved at them. Yo. Kathleen shook her head and quickly talked to Zest and the others there who were worried for the duo. Izuku quickly looked over his shadow's level and was pleased. Shadow Army. Ogre Boss LV.9, Normal. 8, Low Tier Nomu LV.14, Elite. 10 Armored Horse LV.17, Elite. 8 Armored Monkey LV.17, Elite. 11 Armored Wolf LV.17, Elite. Donald LV.18, Elite, Great Siberian Bison. Luna LV.4, Knight, White Tiger Boss. 20, High Orc LV.9, Knight. 40, Four Winged Angels LV.11, Knight. 10, Upper Tier Nomu LV.14, Knight. 30, Cherub LV.17, Knight. 33, Knight LV.21, Knight. 35 Power Angel LV.24, Knight, 6 Winged Angels. 20, High Orc Bodyguard LV.26, Knight. 8 Throne Angel LV.28, Knight, Ringed Angel with Eyes. 20, Ice Bears LV.1, Elite Knight. 10, Ice Elves LV.1, Elite Knight. Kaesel LV.1, Elite Knight, Wyvern. 37 Rusalka LV.2, Elite Knight, Female Slavic Water Spirit. 3 Upper Tier Nomu LV.4, Elite Knight. 51, 8 Winged Angels LV.7, Elite Knights. Dusk LV.8, Elite Knight, High Orc Boss. 20 Deathstalker Scorpions LV.9, Elite Knight. Dickon Cottage LV.9, Elite Knight, Moving House. 6 Magicians LV.10, Elite Knight. 46 Alchemist LV.11, Elite Knight, Slavic Bird Woman. 5 Castle Dwelling Vampire LV.12, Elite Knight, Illusion Vampire. 20 Ant Soldiers LV.14, Elite Knight. Then 10 Winged Angels LV.15, Elite Knight. 14 Vodunoi LV.16, Elite Knight, Frog Slavic Water Spirit. 7 Virtues LV.19, Elite Knight, 2 Winged Powerful Angels. Fluffy LV.21, Elite Knight, Alpha Ice Bear. 24 Gothic Vampire LV.21, Elite Knight, Weapon Vampire. 31 Dark Vampire LV.22, Elite Knight, Bat Vampire. 4 Seductive Sinning Vampire LV.23, Elite Knight. Zadkiel LV.28, Elite Knight, Dominion 10 Winged Angel. 4 Elder Vampire LV.29, Elite Knight. 5 Leshy LV.32, Elite Knight, Slavic Forest Deity. Beast LV.33, Elite Knight, near high-end Nomu with Katsumi. Iden LV.33, Elite Knight. Zetsu LV.33, Elite Knight. Idara LV.38, Elite Knight. Bikuzu LV.38, Elite Knight. Sasori LV.38, Elite Knight. Uriel LV.2, Captain, Seraphim. Fisher LV.3, Captain, Great Water Spirit Vodunoi. Dracula LV.6, Captain, Grand Elder Vampire. Orochimaru, LV.7, Captain. Conan LV.7, Captain. Visam, LV.7, Captain. Itachi LV.7, Captain. Raphael LV.11, Captain, Seraphim. Slimy LV.11, Captain, Slime High-End Nomu. Baruka LV.14, Captain, Elf King. Igris LV.15, Captain, Knight. Pain LV.17, Captain. Toby, LV.17, Captain. Beru, LV.31, Captain. Nikao LV.33, Captain, Three-Faced High-End Nomu. Gabriel LV.3, General, Seraphim. He was still surprised at the growth of Gabriel, but shook his head. He was happy about this day. He was ready for a proper night of sleep and some food. Day of Izuku leaving. He was back in the main base with Kathleen and waving goodbye as he had to go by plane, not by Castle. He hugged Zest, Kathleen and some other people and now was sitting with Gabriel next to him. During the final week the duo completed some small gates and Izuku leveled up Spear Throw during the monster aim practice. Skill. Spear Throw leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. Skill. Fire Manipulation LV.4, active, evolved. 0 Mana skill, can use fire as an attack, defense, or support. Max temperature is 3500 C. Skill. Hand-to-hand LV.3, passive. The passive skill that gives you 65% more experience when using only hands for any kind of combat against a villain or monster. Skill. Spear Throw LV.6, active. Deal damage by throwing your spear. As the skill's level increases, damage and accuracy will increase 30 MP. After the couple-hour flight, the moment Izuku got out of the plane he was tackled by 2 figures. A blue and a white blue were tackling him, catching the 2 he kissed the heads of both the girls and spoke, "Good to see you too." Both girls turned their heads up to see the bright smile that Izuku was giving out. "Finally you are back, you know how much I missed you? You owe me a bunch of those carrots." Rumi pouted but then had a grin on her face. Nijira just nodded, MHM. Shaking his head in fondness, Izuku spoke, "Let's get home, then I will make some dinner." Both of them agreed. Due to Rumi and Nijira being the only ones to collect him, Izuku decided not to take the train as the both of them did. "Come forth." With that, Castle materialized underneath Izuku and both the girls. Nijira and Rumi shouted in surprise, but after seeing what they were on top of, a massive grin appeared on Rumi's face. Gabriel materialized next to Izuku, and with that the now 4 occupants flew towards UA, ignoring the people taking pictures of the wyvern. UA. Alarm. Alarm. Something is flying towards UA. Something is flying towards UA. That was the notification that all of the staff received. So when the staff got out to see what it was, they all had their mouths wide open seeing what is coming down. "My, isn't it interesting? Izuku has a wyvern in his army." Nezu spoke to them. "Do you think it was a good idea for young Midoriya to come to UA in this way?" All Might asked. It was Izawa who replied with a relieved grin, "Finally, he is back." Midnight asked Present Mick, "Why is he that happy?" The energetic man replied quietly, 1A and Ketsubutsu Academy 1A will be meeting soon, and Ms. Joke will be there. A second later, the wyvern with Izuku, Rumi, Gabriel and Nijira flew down with the 4 jumping down. "Yo." Izuku waved at them. "Good to have you back, problem child." Aizawa stated, then Izuku threw him a small box. "What's this?" Izuku just grinned down at him, "Open it up." But that Aizawa opened it up and saw the cat version of Mount Rushmore. "Thanks, brat." Izuku just nodded at him, ignoring Present Mick crying of not getting anything. "Would it be alright if I go back to my dorm?" Izuku asked, and after he received nods of confirmation, he went towards 1A dorms. The night had some clouds and him walking with Nijira on his back, Gabriel in his shadow and Rumi just holding his hand. 1A was chilling after their first day of the week. They expected to see their classmate, but suddenly started to feel his presence. Somehow all of them could tell he was suppressing it. With that, all of 1A started to get out of their dorms to greet Izuku. It seemed like they didn't see him for a year or two, but not 3 weeks. Koji was the first to realize that there were 2 more people with Izuku. Isn't that Maruko and Nijiru-senpai? Kika Ashigaka didn't know what to feel. She felt happiness that her future lover returned, jealousy that there are 2 women with him. Oh, don't forget about love. So the blonde had a smile of pure joy on the outside. Then 3 blurs came past the rest of the class, a blonde with some explosions, a sword-like shape and white eyes. The final destination was Izuku. Not wanting to use his limitless, he allowed them to hug him and patted their heads. Hey you guys. After the fiasco with the 3 more teens on Izuku, he walked inside and sat on the couch in the main living room. How was the 3 weeks? I hope you enjoyed the gift for passing the provisional exam. They all nodded to that. Izuku was in the middle of a couch with both Nijiru and Rumi on either sides of him, with the rest of the class being somewhere around. Then you started. I have the notes for you for the 3 weeks you have missed. Other than that, some of us started their internships. I guess you are with your brother. Tenya smiled and nodded. What about you guys? Shoko and Katsumi both said, Endeavor. Izuku quirked an eyebrow at that, with Kaken explaining why. He is the highest ranking hero currently, and who else is to teach the future number 1? Oh, and Shoko has a nice teacher there. She spoke the last bit offhandedly, getting a small glare from Shoko. Ox gave me an offer. Fumikage spoke, getting a nod from Izuku. I am with Wash. Achako spoke happily. She wanted to become a rescue hero, and who else but a rescue hero? Sue also is with me. Izuku nodded with a smile, although it was nice hearing that Sai was doing okay. Heian continued, I will be starting my internship with Yoroi Musha. Isn't he the same guy who done your work studies? Although Izuku thought, I cannot forget about how I killed his sidekick. Heian nodded with a smile. They continued to talk, with 1A telling Izuku that nothing interesting bar the next day meeting with Ketsubutsu Academy. Apparently they will be sparring more often with that school and Shiketsu more often. Izuku just nodded to that. After 2 hours, Izuku went to sleep to get rid of the time dilation. Rumi and Nijiru were stopped by 3 females who yanked the duo to Katsumi's room. So will you tell me what this is about, brat? Rumi spoke, taking command. Nijiru also was interested of what will be happening. Taking a deep breath, Shoko bowed with the other 2 and asked, we would like for you to allow us to date Izuku. Nijiru and Rumi looked at the trio who were bowing. This ain't my choice, but you also need to ask Gabriel. Nijiru spoke in a more subdued tone of voice. Heian and Shoko nearly broke her neck from putting her head up pretty fast. Who's she? Whilst Katsumi forgot about her. You probably didn't meet her. She is the most human shadow in Izuku's army and the strongest. Nijiru spoke. Grunting, Rumi spoke, I hate to admit it, but the last time we met she was on a national rank level. But I promised to beat her one day. A small crazed grin was on her face. My. Aiming for the heavens knowing you won't reach it. One shadow appeared from Rumi's shadow, showing the intimidating figure of Gabriel with all 12 wings out. Why would Darling even be interested in you 3? She is more intimidating than last time. Rumi and Katsumi thought together. Hey Gabriel. Nijiru spoke with a wave. Her intimidation went down and waved back towards Nijiru, then back to the game of intimidating the 3 girls in front of her. Maruko and Nijiru sweat dropped whilst the 3 teens were barely standing on their legs. Heian started stuttering at first, then gaining her confidence. It started because of how he smelled. You see, I can smell people, and everyone bar Izuku smells. Then after we spent time, I saw his compassion and willingness to help. His kindness is something that I have to respect too. Then the glare of Gabriel was onto Shoko, ignoring the snickering from Nijiru and Rumi. He threw Endeavor out of UA on the first day of UA. Then Rumi started to laugh from that. From then on he helped me in the ways I didn't know I needed. From getting my mother back from the hospital to making my father change for the better. He is warm and nice to cuddle until Maruko came and stole my warmth. Then sent a glare towards Rumi. Last but not least, the explosive female. My plan was, since I knew he was quirkless, to become a hero whilst he will become a house husband, but as you saw, that never happened. After he saved me from the sludge villain, I saw that even powerless he has a heart of gold. I may have been shit for him in the past, but I still love him. Katsumi fell silent after that. Gabriel moved back to the 2 women and started to whisper with them whispering back. After the whispering of the trio, they looked at the other trio. Gabriel sighed and spoke for the group, you will need to ask Darling if you can become his girlfriend. Other than that, good luck. And Gabriel turned into a shadow, leaving the others. I will too be leaving. Rumi spoke and Nijiru waved at them, going to hug Izuku. The trio of teens sighed and nearly fell on their bums. That was the most stressful moment of my life. Heian spoke, the other 2 had to agree to that fact. Gabriel is usually a calm, collected and loving shadow, but when someone wants her darling she could be intimidating. That is also a reason why Rumi likes to challenge her for a fight, Izuku too, but to be the boss girl in the relationship. I will be asking him out during the weekend, Katsumi stated confidently. I will too. Heian nodded to that fact. So all of us on the weekend? Shoko asked unsure, but she received 2 nods. In Izuku's room. Seeing that his girlfriends were out probably talking, he went to have a shower. Izuku found that he had a small problem. Due to his stats being high, he started to suppress them bar intelligence, but the sense stat was annoying. The only way for him to actually reduce it and not have a small migraine was Sas's sunglasses. They reduced the information coming towards him at a faster rate. So when he takes them, he could use 100% of his power. Izuku won't lie that he grins seeing the amount of the system's gold he has. If he wants to he could break an economy of any country. In his possession was over 500 billion G or over 500 billion gold. The amount he gets when selling the dead monsters' bodies was high. Add to that he occasionally sends some shadows to clean some places such as the Dogaba beach, he earns a pretty penny. It is also why the news was going about the mysterious disappearance of one of the largest ocean floating dumps that was gone. During the last week of being in USA, he sent out over 100 shadows to clean up some of the ocean, and they did a beautiful job. Now the ocean was cleaner, and he earned some money. Remembering the last week of being in the States was something that he was happy about. After the usual patrol and finishing some of the gates, he had free time. Not knowing many people, Zest took the job of showing the States to Izuku as they flew with Casel or walked normally. Although, he needs to speak to Nezu about a plan he had in his mind and to see if that would be possible if at all. After getting out of the shower and drying himself up, he started to prepare for bed when his girlfriends came into his room. All of them stopped seeing Izuku with only his towel around his waist, showing his body for everyone to see. Flop, that was Najire passing out due to blood loss. Betting a tint of red on his face, Izuku used the ability of instantly having clothes on his body. With that he checked Najire if she was alright, leaving the dazed Maruko and Gabriel due to them accidentally seeing more than they should for now. Next day. Waking up, Izuku could feel that Rumi was on his left, Gabriel on his right whilst Najire on his stomach. He smiled at them, although he remembered the full talk she had with others about Mirio. 3 weeks ago when Izuku went back to Japan quickly to comfort her, Najire didn't explain why, but did last night. Even if Izuku knew a bit more than expected from his shadows. Flashback last night. The 4 were on the bed, whilst listening to Najire speak, so 3 weeks ago, when 1A got their provisional licenses. The big 3, meaning myself, Tamaki and Mirio, went to explain about internships. Najire's voice wasn't the happiest at the moment, more somber if Izuku had to place it somewhere. All was going well, until Katsumi was the last one standing on 1A's side as they were against Mirio. Izuku nodded, whilst Rumi and Gabriel who didn't know anything just nodded. Izuku probably knows that, but for some reason Mirio lost concentration, and Katsumi managed to his permeability. I still don't know why, but then he went from 5% of new power to around 37% of it. Rumi then asked, is it a power scale or something? Izuku eyes widened for a second. Mirio's new power is something to do with strength and speed, right? Najire just nodded, then a shit-eating grin appeared on Izuku's face. I have a theory, but let me give you some history. When the 3 girls nodded, Izuku continued, during the summer exam when I had to face Bun Bun and All Might, I used my ultimate move Total Darkness. All of you know that it is a sphere with myself and my opponent in it. The girls nodded, it was my first time using it on All Might, inside it I met some people other than All Might. The girls rose their eyebrows hearing it, there were 7 individuals, apparently they were All Might's predecessors. From what one of them told me, All Might gave his quirk to someone, but the predecessors didn't like them and bestowed upon me their quirks for some reason. Rumi then asked, so float, Black Whip right? Izuku nodded whist showing Najire the Black Whip which is a new skill. I unlocked the 3rd one, Danger Sense, giving me the ability to tell me when I or someone is in danger. Black Whip and Shadow Manipulation turned into the skill Darkness Overlord. Shaking his head and ignoring the awe, Izuku continued what they were saying before, continuing with the topic before. One of them named Nana told me that she was alive, but not able to do anything. Since then I was sending my shadows around Japan and its islands to find her, still no luck. As I mentioned to Rumi then, and I am sorry of not telling you too. I was too shocked that they could move and talk, that I was just listening, and Nana kissed me, but I presume it was to get the other quirks into me. He ignored the 3 girls, saying that they will kill that lady when they find her. So I guess All Might passed his quirk on to Mirio during the spring break, that is why Sir Night Eye and most probably All Might are invested in him. This explained a lot, all of them went silent until Najire continued, that is what Mirio meant when he said he had expectations to uphold. Getting a no sound from Rumi, she continued, after Beast stopped the blow, and with him throwing Mirio to the other side of the hall, Aizawa-sensei stopped the match. We talked about his quirk and internships, and that was when things started to go down. Mina complimented you with you being one of the strongest, and Mirio didn't like that. I asked Mirio if he was okay when 1A was leaving, until he snapped at me verbally. We spoke some words until he fully snapped, and with his full power he went after me. I was still getting used to my new explosion power and sent it to Mirio, blasting him. Then I run here. Izuku was hugging Najire with everyone just hugging everyone. Rumi then spoke, "At least you kicked his ass." Some laughter came out of them. Gabriel Lake the next question, what did everyone say about your explosions? Nezu already knew, I occasionally train with Katsumi and training ground Charlie or Delta to control it. When my class discovered that, I told them that it evolved during a gate raid. Najire explained to the group. Present. Kissing the foreheads of the three, they began waking up, and with that breakfast came. Rumi had to leave to patrol, but luckily in the surrounding area for some time, whilst Najire went to her class and Izuku to his. In class all of them were talking, then the door opened, morning. I sadly must inform you that the students of class 1 from Ketsubutsu Academy will be here after lunch. Katsumi froze, then leaned back towards Izuku. Didn't the two extras go there? It took Izuku a couple of seconds, and he too froze. You mean the hairy quirk one and that woman? Yes, that woman. I fucking hate her guts. Katsumi whispered the last thing. Time skip lunch. Katsumi and Izuku both were down and internally sulking, so at lunch when meeting Mei and Najire, and with asking what happened, Katsumi growled out a response. We will be having joint training with Ketsubutsu Academy. 2 of the class 1 from their school went with us to Aldera. Mei, being the innocent being she is, asked, what happened? One of them, the hairy extra, thought he was top dog, his hygiene was appalling. Shivers went down both Izuku and Katsumi's back. The other one had a minor healing quirk, but she wasn't able to finish due to them hearing a screeching voice. Izuku, everyone winced at her voice. It would have been better to listen to nails scratching a blackboard. I will be seeing you all. With that, Izuku used Kamui to teleport himself to Nezu's office. Safe. Izuku muttered. Nezu rose and eyebrowed him. I am guessing you know her. I wish I didn't. I swear if she didn't have a healing quirk, then I would guess she would have a voice type quirk. Nezu nodded to that. Mick. Izuku was watching the stars in Brazil. He didn't know why he is here, but he knew one thing. Japan wasn't safe for him, a reason why. Nana woke. Nana was fighting against Gabriel, Maruko and Najire. Somehow the Nana woman was using her womanly determination and was overwhelming the trio, even Gabriel. The reason why, she liked the kiss with Izuku and wanted another one, and Izuku's girlfriends didn't allow it. Now Japan was facing mass destruction, and Izuku couldn't even help. He remembered All Might in his big form being bitch slapped away trying to stop his master. All for One also being bitch slapped when he got out of prison, and even Tamura, who wanted to question his granny, was bitch slapped. All because Izuku's lips were nice and kissable. Izuku then heard rustling near him. Looking around, he saw Nana. Wait, Nana. And finally, he let out a girly scream and teleported to Antarctica, hoping that his passive elemental resistance skill will rise, so he can go under the Earth's crust and live there. I will be seeing you all. With that, Izuku used Kamui to teleport himself to Nezu's office. Safe. Izuku muttered. Nezu rose and eyebrowed him. I am guessing you know her. I wish I didn't. I swear if she didn't have a healing quirk, then I would guess she would have a voice type quirk. Nezu nodded to that. Current. Please Nezu, save me. With my heightened senses I will be in pain. Imagine Kyoka and Mizo too. Izuku pleaded with his headmaster. Putting on a grin, Nezu shook his head. Sorry Izuku, but you have to attend. Even if the rest of the world is on fire. Yes, you will be attending it. Nezu spoke, and tears were coming from Izuku's eyes. But that was some time before. He and Midnight were standing in the car park waiting for the bus to stop and for the students to start coming out. The first one out was Ms. Joke. When she tried to hug him, Donald and Luna both came out for Shota's protection. The man just smirked. After Ms. Joke, 20 students started to come out with another teacher behind them. The teacher was named the Sulfuric Hero. Chemic, he had a quirk that allows him to use liquid chemicals that contain sulfur. Then when they were about to start talking, a girl with green hair done up in a ponytail with a height of 168 centimeters asked Midnight whilst bouncing on her feet, is Izu here? Taking an involuntary step back, the modern arts teacher spoke, you mean Izuku Midoriya? Receiving a nod, yes. That was a mistake. Izuku, she shouted, whilst looking around for him. Both Shota and Nomuri both felt bad for Izuku at that moment. Neither could legally bind the person, one with their quirk and the other with the special binds. Emi looked towards them sheepishly, sorry about that. Training ground Alpha. The Ketsubutsu students in their hero uniforms all waited for 1A to come. The 20 students all were standing in front of All Might, Aizawa and their 2 teachers, then they started to hear footsteps coming along. Turning around they saw 1A walking towards them with grins and happy faces. Izuku was at the back with Katsumi trying not to be seen by that woman. Izuku was asked this many times, but how can his uniform withstand a lot of punishment? Easy, because no one bar a few knew that he had invisible armor over his clothes, and it was mostly the cloak that blocks most of the attacks on him. It was like having a mini infinity around him with his cloak. Nothing changed much with the other students' costumes, but some minor changes. Katsumi had some more shoulder protection to help with her larger explosions. Shoko has a first aid kit on her belt, Yuga's cape has more sparkles and more resistance to the elements. Kyoka's speakers have mana crystals imbued in it, Momo had a red cape that is similar to Yuga's one, but less sparkly. Denki's flying discs have 2 modes, a spikier one and a disc version. Tenya's armor has some mana crystals imbued in it making it more resistant and lighter. Seeing everyone Aizawa started, okay, class with his Ketsubetsu class 1, and they will be joining in today's training. In the corner of his eye he could see a hairy kid looking at Izuku with some sort of anger, he won't be placing the 2 together. From the reports I have from Chemic and Ms. Joke, everyone here is at least C rank in strength via their quirk, combat ability and mental ability. Once again he gave a look over and saw Hitachi with Izuku and smiled lightly. Even if Hitachi was a new student towards the hero department, the Perplet had a high B rank quirk, but an A rank if he finally manages to properly figure out his new voice changer. Although, his combat ability is high C rank without his quirk, but he is slowly improving. Emic then continued, today we will be doing something that is going to be required by all individuals that want to enter a gate. Even if your quirk isn't suitable, you still need to learn how to deal with the monsters if they manage to break out of the gate. This got everyone to nod their heads. His joke stepped forward and spoke, all heroes who are dealing with gates as you know have a nickname of hunters. With that Japan and the other countries agreed that all hunters need to have a weapon that can include a dagger, sword or anything of the sorts. However the laws for heroes have become a little stricter. Heroes cannot use their weapons on villains, the exception are the ones that require a weapon in the first place like snipe and kamikaze. Taking a breath, she continued more seriously, today you will be learning how to use a weapon such as a sword to help you in the gates in the future, or if a monster breaks out. The students nodded at this, it was a fact, and some of them already knows how to deal with a weapon like Izuku and Momo. One student asked, what if we can deal with the monsters with our quirk only? Wouldn't it be pointless? It was a blue-skinned guy with blue hair, blue everything asked. It was All Might who spoke in a sage-like manner, that is mainly for your safety. Imagine that the monster is resistant for your quirk, let's say fire. Endeavor would have a harder time with his quirk, but if he had a weapon he could finish of a monster quicker saving his energy. Students started to nod, it made sense to them. Even if some would probably never need weapons. We have invited Kamikaze, Mihik, Titania and Zest. After hearing that name, Izuku had his eyes widen. A small smile graced his lips hearing her name, Zest. Aizawa continued, those 4 have agreed to train you today, and after that 2 of them will be staying at UA, whilst the other 2 will be going to Ketsubutsu to help you all train. I knew that she will be coming to Japan for some time, that is what Kath told me in the last week, but I didn't know that she will be coming here this soon. Izuku thought to himself. So these are the brats we will be teaching. Most don't look that tough. A man with a ponytail stated, he had some sort of wooden splinter in his mouth. His name was Kamikaze, a high A rank hero under the HSPC direction. The red-haired woman named Titania, otherwise known as Urza Scarlet, spoke next, don't let your arrogance fool you, some of them have talent for the blade. The more serious voice from behind the 2 spoke, I want to fight Monarch to test whose fighting style is better. That was Dracula Mihik talking, since he found out about Izuku being able to use a sword or a weapon in general, he was interested to fight him. He needs to keep the strongest swordsman name. How you doing Izuku, good to see you again. Zest spoke in a happy tone whilst waving at him, then a colder tone she spoke to the rest of the students, don't expect we will be going easy on you because you are still in high school. Does she have a split personality? Some of the students wondered. Izuku just sighed, he wanted to not bring the attention on him this day, but who would have thought Mihik, a hero that works in the sea, wanted to challenge him. The similar thought was going through Aizawa's head, since when did he know Zest? It took the man a couple of seconds to realize, in America, that is why Star and Stripe recommended her. This is too troublesome. His joke continued like nothing happened, U40 will be split in groups of 10, 5 from UA, and the other 5 from Katsubutsu. You will be training for the next couple of hours with your instructors, they will be deciding how they will teach you. Understood. All of them nodded until All Might took a step forward and started calling out the 4 groups. Group 1. Mina Ishido, Toru Hagakure, Mizo Shoji, Tenya Iida and Hanta Siro from UA. Then he listed 5 names from Katsubutsu Academy, your teacher will be Kamikaze. The samurai man took his students to a different field completely. Group 2. Achako Uraraka, Koji Koda, Ijiro Kirishima, Fumikage Tokoyami and Mashiro Ijiro from UA. The same thing went on with Katsubutsu, your teacher will be Titania. This time the group went towards a grass field that had some trees located. Group 3. Yuga Aoyama, Denki Kaminari, Rikido Sato, Shoko Todoroki and Momo Yaoi Rozu from UA. Due to Izawa's interference, he placed both the hairy one and the shouting one in this group. Ooh Izu. She wailed and Mihik felt dread rising in his stomach. Your teacher will be Mihik. One of the Katsubutsu students had to drag the female greenette alone with them. Lastly, Group 4. Chika Ashigaka, Izuku Midoriya, Katsumi Bakugo, Heian Cha and Kyoka Jiro from UA. You will be joined by Sora, Tamari, Miragen Strauss, Genos and Kaoru Hitachian from Katsubutsu. Your teacher will be Zest. A grin appeared on Zest's face hearing that Izuku will be in her group. Soma Yukihira. Quirk healer minor enhancement type. Depends on the food he makes, can give you different effects like speed boost. Damari no Sabaku. Quirk emitter type. Produces wind similar to Inasa but without the precise control. Miragen Strauss. Quirk transformation type. Similar to Tamaki's quirk, but if she eats an animal she can keep that power transformation. Sadly when she was a child, she was given animals with quirks to eat and now she can use some of their abilities. Genos. Quirk mutation type. Most of his body is robotic. He is Genos the apprentice of Saitama, no explanation. Kaoru Hitachian. Quirk emitter mental type. Calmness, he can produce an energy wave that can calm and make the worries and panicking people calmer. S took her group of 10 towards an empty training ground, but they had a table there. I know some of you have weapons, but we will be using wooden ones today. She explained, whilst pointing towards the table, go up to it and try to feel them out, after you found which one is probably the most suitable for you then come towards me. The group nodded and started to walk to the table. Dika asked Izuku due to her being close by, which weapon will you choose Izuku? Even if she knew, Izuku does use a lot of weapons. I want to improve my skills with a katana, what about you Chika? Izuku held a wooden katana in his hand and started to feel it. The woman next to him smiled and said, probably a dagger. Izuku nodded towards her. What about you Kyoka? Izuku looked over to the petite girl. A short sword possibly, due to my size I probably cannot do anything bigger. Kyoka spoke in an even tone. You know that if mana crystals are added then it will make the sword or weapon lighter. With that Izuku went towards Zest, but was quickly joined by the 9 other students. I see that most of you have different weapons, but that is cool. The first day is meant to familiarize yourself with them, later on the day I have some books that can help you otherwise I will be helping your movements. Now go into pairs but with another school. It was surprising, but Miragen Strauss chose him, you must be Izuku, I am Miragen. She bowed a little at the end. Bowing slightly in a greeting, good to meet you too Miragen. Zest called out, don't use your quirk yet, I will be coming over helping your stances. Go. Miragen chose a Kodachi for her weapon of choice, both grinned and moved forward. Both of them clashed the wooden weapons, and because Izuku had more experience, he easily took advantage of the mistakes that the Katsubutsu student made. He was nice enough to tell her how she could improve her stance, whilst this was happening Katsumi was gritting her teeth. I wish I could use my quirk as you sure aren't calm. Kaoru spoke with a gentle tone. For some reason this was pissing Katsumi off even more, die you bastard. She once again swung her weapon with the boy easily dodging it. As Estu was observing spoke, Kaoru is right, you need a clearer mind to be able to control a Tanto, other than that your speed is really good and the power behind it. I would recommend for you to have more footwork done, try dancing. Then she looked over at Koru, your stance is good especially maneuvering around Katsumi's attacks, but you also need to learn how to block. Ioka was having some fun after discovering that her quirk has a passive ability of listening how close something is, similar to a sense. She was practicing that ability to find the distance of her opponent. Now she was trying to dodge Zoma's strikes with his weapon, who expected a cooking type to be good with a Kodachi. When Zest came over and looked whilst the duo were fighting she smiled, Kyoka, I like the way you can sense around with your earjacks, but I see you need more practice. Continue on and I swear nothing will be able to come close to you. Looking over at Soma she nodded, I see you have training with a weapon. After receiving a nod, Zest continued, when you are blocking, your stance is a little too wide making your balance be a little off. With that she left to her third group. Heian was currently overpowering Genos, and it was quite funny. Due to her constant use of the sword, Heian would be able to defeat most people without their quirks, and Genos was on the receiving side of it. Even if he had a body made from metal, trained with a weapon, he was still getting bumped by Heian. As S spoke, Genos, you will need to work on your reaction time, other than that your strength and speed are amazing. Getting a small smile and a nod from Genos, Zest continued her assessment. Hey your quirk is sword-based, so you have more experience than most here. Try increasing your basic skills such as speed, other than that more experience, and you can become one of the strongest in the world with a sword. Hey beamed about the compliment. The fourth group, Temari and Chika, both of them were at a standstill. Temari had a zanbato whilst Chika had a dagger. The length of the wooden zanbato was annoying for Chika, but it was the same for Temari. Due to Chika having a shorter sword, she needed to get in close to actually do damage, and moving the zanbato was hard for Temari in a short range. S spoke, getting the two from their standstill. Not the bad, you two, definitely both of you need more experience. Temari, I would recommend you to learn 2 or more styles. The reason is zanbatos are easy to learn, but hard to master. Barely understanding the word, Temari just nodded. Chika, I would recommend that your speed without your quirk to be increased. If you do that, then your speed whilst using your quirk would be faster. Learn how to walk silently, usually dagger users or assassin types. Last group was Izuku against Murahin. Even without using the system, Izuku was overpowering her. Izuku relented her pestering, and finally was calling her Mira, whilst being called Izu by her. Mira had a good stance and some experience, so it was a nice relaxing fight with her. Zest came over and spoke. Your two have a good defensive and offensive moves. Murahin, I recommend for you to learn how to dance as you are a little too rigid. Izuku, you need more experience, but even with your quirk you don't need it. Try learning other weapons than daggers. Izuku rose his eyebrow and had a small smirk. You mean something like this? Then he got Kusanagi in his left hand, Samehada in his right, then moving having Lance of Longinus being summoned, and finally the newest sword, Demon King's longsword. Those 4 weapons nearly made Zest to Facifault, and using his gravity control, he was making them float behind him with the 2 daggers he owns, the T-Rex dagger and Vampire Killer. Then a smirk appeared on his face when Igris was allowing his liege to use his sword for show, so getting Michael's longsword out of his shadow, he spoke. Those are my weapons so far. I do agree I need more experience, especially with Samehada. Mira just smirked. Oh, now we are on. She started to transform into a bat that had a speed type quirk. Now using all of her strength, Mira was trying to attack Izuku, but with just an unconscious thought the weapons protected all of Izuku's sides. Sweat dropping. Okay, I will leave the 2 of you alone. But the teachers. All of them were sitting around a table, Kemek, Ms. Joke, Eraserhead and All Might. So our plan is for them to be split in 4 groups and enter a gate of C rank. Shota asked his fellow teachers. Kemek nodded. The gates will give our students the first-hand experience they need with weapons and dealing with monsters. They will have an S rank hero just in case. All Might nodded. Some of our students already been in a gate. You mean Izuku Midoriya? Joke asked. Aizawa sighed but too nodded. He is the one that usually deals with the gates around UA and Tokyo. He occasionally takes Katsumi, but more often he goes with Nijire, Hado or Maruko. What about the groups? Who do you think will be on each side? With that the 4 continued to talk and discuss about which groups would be good together. So All Might, Maruko, Monarch and the last group will be Mihik. Each of them will have a sword teacher with them, whilst Mihik will have a hero. A teacher will be going as well. It should be good then. Ms. Joke summarized. Later on the day. Well done guys, you have impressed me with your determination. Even with using some of your quirk you didn't give up and fought until the very end. Then she had 10 small piles of books ties with some string. Here is a small collection of books. It have some stances, footwork, counters, basic history and anatomy of your weapon. I will be staying at UA with Mihik for the next week, then you will have Titania and Kamikaze for the week after that. Every student in front of her bowed. Thank you for your help. Zest couldn't help but smile. Maybe being a teacher won't be that bad. Then Zest began to leave, leaving the 10 students on their own. I guess I will be seeing you soon. We will be completing a gate on Friday. Izuku smirked at the group. You being Nezu's apprentice is quite handy, don't you say? Kyoka chuckled at that. It was nice meeting you. See you on Friday, Izu, everyone. Mira shouted as their group was now fetched by a teacher. Let's go to our dorm. He got everyone clothes much to the shock of all, and using Kamui he appeared in their dorm. He didn't realize that all of the girls had some sort of blush from the closeness. Mick. The weapons chooses you, remember that. With that Zest went backwards. Then the students started to look around and touch each of them. Heck yeah. Katsumi was carrying an axe that was as taller than herself. I can kill you finally. Then add some unhinged laughter. Izuku picked up a small knife the size of 2 inches. Quirking an eyebrow, interesting. Then with Katsumi accidentally swinging the axe at Izuku, he just blocked it with a small knife. How? Everyone asked, but Izuku just shrugged. Size doesn't matter. With that he went off to train. Each of the schools were training with their weapons from their teachers, so the thing Mihik wanted to do happened. On Wednesday afternoon, after the training for both 1A and 1B from different teachers, Dracula Mihik confronted Izuku. "We will be fighting." The red eyes of the man bearing holes into Izuku, and the man let his aura go wild. Quirking an eyebrow, quirks or no quirks. Not even affected by the aura Mihik was producing. Only after a few seconds did Dracula Mihik reply, "Don't use your shadows. Other than that we are clear." Rumi, who was there with zest, started to snicker, much to the confusion of many. "Sure. Let's go to training field Zulu. Even if we destroy it, it will be back to its condition tomorrow." With that the two left. Nezu jumped in as he is a god, so that is only logical. "I have drones, so you will be safely watching it." With that the TV turned on with the best view of training field Zulu. Training field Zulu. Mihik got his black blade Yoru from his back, whilst Izuku took out Kusanagi and the Demon King's longsword. Both smirked, then with an unnoticed timer, they rushed towards each other with impressive speed, even if Izuku was holding back from the beginning. Holding back is usually something to do to measure your opponent's skill, whilst Mihik tried holding back. From the get-go, the strongest swordsman was having a hard time. The first clash was something to say. The rocks that stayed there started to fly away, and the ground breaking under the pressure the duo were exerting. Izuku added some mana to Kusanagi to elongate it, making Mihik use a small sword to black it. The pirate hero jumped back and started to power up one of his stronger attacks to try and break a sword or two. Realizing it, Izuku too started to enhance his sword just in case with shadows and fire, with the two started to clash, but the backlash was worse, as they continued to move and try to cut the other. Both knew that if they didn't try to kill one another, then Izuku could heal them fully, so that is why Mihik threw some small butter knives at Izuku to distract him and slashed in the air. Danger. Believing in this warning, Izuku used his Kamui ability of intangibility and let the attack and the butter knives pass through. Quickly looking back, he could see that it would cause a lot of damage if that actually hit. A massive slash was carved in the ground, atlas 20 meters deep. Getting his concentration back, Izuku pushed his speed up properly from the 10% speed boost from the passive weapons expert. Mihik barely was seeing his opponent, even if he was blessed with sight that could see most things. He was seeing after images of Izuku, and barely blocked an overhead slash from Izuku from Samehada. "So this is your game, confusing me with your weapons?" Mihik thought to himself, impressed. That was true. Izuku's weapon all had a special ability, so it was a shock to Mihik when Samehada appeared on Izuku's left hand and made a small nick that caused Izuku to smirk. Cursing under his breath, the paralytic effect of the blade started to act up. But he wasn't called the strongest swordsman for nothing, putting all of his remaining energy before he would go unconscious. A final attack to make Izuku sweat a bit. "It is still unfinished. It was meant for my student, oh well." An image of a cross appeared behind Mihik, and then with two slashed a massive energy blast came forth. Danger. Skill. Danger sense leveled up from LV.1 to LV.2. A subconscious ability and the third gift from All Might's predecessor. It warns of the user off danger, may it be an attack to the oneself or near them. The higher the level, the more precise and the further the distance it can be used on. Not wanting to use his skills to defend himself, Izuku put a lot of his mana in his Demon King's longsword and made a slash, releasing a pushing effect from his gravity skill, cancelling the attack completely. Wow, that was something. But when Izuku looked over at Mihik, the man was leaning forward on his knees. Walking over, he started to heal up the man and spoke, "That was fun, we should do it more often." Skill. Weapons expert leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5 evolved. The passive skill that gives you 65% more experience when using weapons of any kind and a plus 10% speed boost when using a weapon in combat. Those were the words Mihik woke up to. "I think I may found a rival." Then once again fell unconscious from the exertion, but with a smile on his face. Whilst Izuku may look fine, he did lose over 7000 MP from the untrained techniques. The gravity attack from the Demon King's longsword was an interesting move. Inside the dorm, all of them had their mouths on the floor whilst Gabriel, Zest, Rumi all laughed. It looked simple for Izuku to defeat a near S-rank opponent. The only reason why Mihik isn't considered S-rank, because his heroing was on the sea. In one of the richest girls' heads there was a thought, mother and father still aren't over not getting the engagement, even Izuku's dad is not wanting to do it. Although seeing Izuku defeat a strong opponent easily made something twist and turn in her stomach that she didn't know if she liked it or not. Time skip Friday. The original group of 10 were standing outside a blue gate with a height of 4 meters that Izuku could sense was a high C rank. Even if he couldn't take his classmates to a stronger one, he has to do with being the de facto team leader for the 9 other students, Zest and Midnight. Looking back, this gate is of a high C rank caliber. We don't know what is inside it yet, but from the looks of it, the monsters will be around a couple of meters tall. I want you to try and defeat them with your weapon, but if you can't you can use your quirk, and don't be shy from using your quirk, okay? Additionally, remember, safety is #1 priority, so try and work together. Aye, boss man. Some of them shouted. With a smile, Izuku continued, for some this is your first gate, but for others it could be just another one. The formation for this raid is Chika and Genos at front. Both nodded as they did have shields. Just behind them Heian, Katsumi and Murahin, you three will be the sword of this attack. No one laughed at this shitty pun, the long range will be Temari and Kyoka. Additionally, Kyoka and Genos, please use your enhanced senses. Getting nods, he continued to the last ones. Finally, Soma and Kaoru, you two are probably the most essential ones in the operation. Soma, if someone is hurt, your food can heal them up, whilst Kaoru allows the hunters to have a calm mind and think rationally. Myself, Zest and Midnight will have your backs just in case, and all of you have an elite night shadow hidden in your shadow. Izuku said with a smile. So you gave us a personal S-rank shadow for our protection. Aren't you overeating, nerd? Katsumi asked with a tilted head. Anything can happen in a gate, remember that. It is better to come over-prepared than under-prepared. Izuku told them. He would be a good father. One UA teacher thought to herself as she licked her lips. Okay guys, let's head in. With that the 12 humans went in. Inside the gate it wasn't anything abnormal, just a cave system that had holes in them. Smirking, Izuku thought, what will you do? You have entered a dungeon. Ioka then shouted, there are monsters coming from all sides. And that was true, centipedes came crawling out of the holes. Instantly Kaoru used his quirk on everyone, which was a good idea. Cupping her hand, Katsumi shot couple of explosions, blowing one centipede away. One of them tried getting close but was blown away by Temari, who allowed Chika to jump up and slash the head off easily. Murahin used her quirk and transformed to have bat wings and used a longsword to slash a couple of the monsters down. Soma had to use a long-range weapon, about to be able to protect others as he didn't have a combat quirk. He shot one down, allowing Genos to come rushing and cutting it down. Whistling, impressive you guys. Some cheering came up, but Izuku shook his head, you know that this is just the start, right? They are low C rank. A smirk appeared on Izuku's face, continue this and you will finish this gate. Smiles appeared on the faces of the group. As they walked forward with an occasional kill, Midnight and Zest came up to Izuku, I didn't know you could take in charge this easily. Snorting, Izuku replied, it is pretty simple, there are no self-centered people in this group. The trio winced, remembering how impulsive some of Izuku's classmates or even some of Katsubutsu's students were. Zest shook her head, what do you expect of this gate? Thinking for a second, he gave his reply, nothing special in all honesty, might revive the boss because I can other than that insect type. Midnight sweat dropped, you know that 43% of the deaths from gates come from C-rank gates. Izuku quirked an eyebrow and revealed a truth, the reality Midnight Sensei is that those 43% were civilians who thought they are big shots and tried to enter a gate as they can go to E and D rank gates. That was true, overconfident civilians that got a low rank hunter license thought that they could defeat the monsters with their meta ability. The other is the gate breakouts, not a lot of heroes like to deal with C ranks as they are too easy, making them break and cause more casualties. The duo nodded their head in understanding. Then Izuku lit a small fire above his right hand, it is getting darker. Get your torches on. But that more light came upon the group, light was being projected by every member of the group. After another 2 minutes of walking, there were two ways, Izuku, which was should we go? Kaoru asked the team leader. Smiling, Izuku turned to the two sensors, this will be a good opportunity to learn how to use your enhanced senses, so Kyoka, knows which way. Ignoring the pressure of the situation, Kyoka plugged both ear jacks into the group, which Genos looked through infrared, then a night vision lens to see which one is the best. Left. Left. Both said at the same time, Kyoka explained further, the right has some kind of dead end with no sound coming from it, the left has way more sound. Genos continued, the left does indeed have more monsters, but there is none in the right wing. Izuku hummed, good idea you two. A confused look etched on the two's faces, but let me ask you a few things. Getting nods, Izuku continued, what types of monsters did we face? Centipedes. Kyoka replied. How do they move? Izuku continued. Genos explained, by crawling or by digging. Some eyes widened at that, they started to understand what Izuku meant. So, the low C rank centipedes, and you barely heard a sound, meaning if it would be a high C rank. Izuku pushed a little more. It would be hard to find them. Kyoka started to put the pieces together, so if they are making excess noise, that means they are trying to lure us in a trap of some sorts. Adding his classmate's head and ignored some looks, he explained to the rest, monsters may be sneaky, usually high D ranks, and up have some sort of intelligence that allows them to form traps. The centipedes are most likely trying to make us go into a trap to protect their leader, otherwise known as the boss. Izuku explained, with all of them doing a nuo sound, heck even Katsumi who went into gates with Izuku didn't know that. So they went to the right, but now everyone was on the lookout. Cracking sounds was heard from all around them, and a centipede rushed towards them. It was as thick as the entrance and his metal around its body protecting it. The pure white name looked like a joke for Izuku, but he shook his head and allowed the rest of the class to deal with it. Katsumi jumped up and swung her axe down trying to cut it, but only made a dent in its armor. Seeing this, Chika and Murahin used their enhanced strength and form, respectfully punching the monster backwards. Seeing what was happening, both Kaoru and Soma shot some arrows with the enhanced speed from Tamari, making some puncture the figure. Dino shot out a beam of energy that allowed Heian to mask her presence, cutting 3 of the legs. Kyoka sent out sound waves, making the centipede front hit the ground. Thinking it was too easy, Katsumi held up her axe and tried to decapitate it, but it tried to attack her from that position. Lucky for her, Tamari blew the monster just in time for Katsumi to dodge. Dinos then prepared a large array to shoot it down, doing so with 40% of his power. A hole was made in its side, killing it for good. Boss monster had been defeated. Smiling brightly, Izuku and the 2 teachers clapped. Amazing teamwork. This may not be the ideal group for Gates, but you made it work amazingly. Izuku praised them. All this was happening as the group of 9 ate some of Soma's food to replenish their energy. What do you mean by that? Genos asked curiously. The average group has 10 to 14 people. You had 9 active ones, but the strategy is different. They usually have 3 tankers and 2 long range, with 4 being close range, and the rest are the healers and support. Seeing as everyone has their attention at Izuku, he continued, we have to start going, we only have 30 minutes before the gate closes. Getting nods, they started to walk whilst Izuku continued to talk. The minimum group is made up of 10 people, with one of them being a rank up the gate. You guys are B and A ranks that will grow with experience, so this was supposed to give you a taste of how the gates operate. Usually civilians with licenses can do E and D ranks that an occasional hero or 2 help out. But further up like C rank gates, you need a structure as I mentioned, but with numbers there is advantage. The more numbers will help you, but too many it will become too crowded sometimes, and mishaps can happen. Izuku explained. Tika asked, so what about you? Don't you need a group of 9 S ranks and a national rank being you to complete a S rank gate? Izuku smiled and patted her head. For some reason he was in the mood for head pats that unknowingly made the person blush. There are only 10 national heroes so far, you might become the next one, but usually if a S-rank gate appeared, the country calls for you to help out. So that is why you go to different countries? Heian asked. Yes and no. At the beginning I was helping out countries climatized towards the gates, trying to lower the death rate. Now I have some sort of contract with 6 countries that I will help them out if Asker sends some of my captains to help them out. Damari being curious asked, what countries and what about Japan? Why do you need a contract and did Japan do something similar? Then quickly after that Kyoka asked, how strong is a captain? Smiling gently, he answered as this is uncommon knowledge, but still useful for heroes to know. I will answer Tamari's then yours Kyoka okay. Getting nods he continued, a contract is needed as national ranks heroes that are acknowledged by other countries and their own country have some privileges. As one national rank hero or villain can destroy a country, contracts are formed to keep them in line, as the only way to defeat a national rank is usually by another national rank, or outsmarting them which is pretty hard. Therefore some countries ask to form a contract with me allowing me to stay and use my quirk whenever I want and go there visa free with some other details. All I need to do is to help them out occasionally, and if asked for help I will come or send in some of my shadows. That was a long explanation but needed for the next part, only France, South Korea, USA, Canada, Denmark and China. Ignoring Katsumi's scream, how the fuck did you go to Denmark and China without me knowing? Izuku just winked and carried on. Japan didn't have a contract signed with me, so I could freely go to USA if I want to even if they are being burnt alive. The students and teachers sweedropped with zest nodding about the great idea. My shadows have 6 ranks. Normal, elite knight, captain and general. Then one of each rank came out. The ogre is my only normal rank, but he will soon be an elite. But normal ranks are C rank level strength. He fist bumped it and it went into his shadow. This horse is an elite or a B rank monster. After petting and disappearing Izuku, then pointed at 6-winged angel. This angel is a knight or an A rank monster. Pointing at a seductive vampire, Izuku facepalmed as he was using his gravity skill of keeping the succumbus away from him. This vampire is an elite knight or a low to mid S rank. Betting nods, he continued when 2 shadows remained. A captain is a high S to low national rank shadow. Igris here was my first proper shadow. He patted the knight who internally smiled of not being forgotten. Lastly, my only general Gabriel. Now Katsumi and Heian realized who they were against. She is mid to high national level. But remember the only proper way to defeat a shadow of mine is to kill me. He would say about depleting his mana supply because he found a ring that he will be later on this day that would be helpful for him. Chika realized that her future lover is stronger than her grandfather tenfold. Any more questions? They saw that they will be out soon. How many captains do you have? We know that you have one general. Soma asked, actually curious with his friend's quirk. 15. Mouths were open, Zest nearly fainted, Midnight chalked, and Gabriel just laughed. The American teacher then thought, if you cancel out Izuku's shadows, then he is just a high national rank, but with his shadows then good luck to any who face him. Oh, she didn't know that Izuku in this state would barely tie with the weakest of the 8. Different location. So you want Kurogiri twice? Tamura asked the masked man. Yes. We also would love to have your name but under my leadership. Overhaul stated. It took a minute of thinking on Tamura's part. He did grow immensely during the period that his sensei went into prison. Replying, we will see about your second request for now. I will give you a trial run with twice and Toga. Kurogiri is on a mission looking for something the league needs. Nodding, Overhaul thought that it was a good plan. Show that he can be a competent leader, and if the two grunts would like it, then Tamura Shigaraki would work under him. I could make him my left-hand man, but we will need to eliminate the diseases too. That is a deal. Both shook hands with their gloves on above the table. I will send them on Monday. With that, the gray-haired man left. Interesting, he is different than I remembered some time ago. Overhaul mused to himself. After hearing the door click close again, he asked, how are the monsters? Still being uncooperative. One of the 8 precepts of death replied, all of our experimentations say that they are not cooperative. The only thing we know was from the higher rank gate that a talking one told us that they have a voice inside their head telling them to kill humans. Frowning, we will need them just in case, when we will be far away we can release them to cause trouble. Grins appeared the members in the room. Mick. Izuku was once again transported, but this time to a different world. Where the hell am I? Turning around he saw a blonde chicken beating up a brown-haired kid. Not liking what he saw, he blasted the chicken with enough energy to make the blondie disappear. Oh shit, I killed him. With that he teleported somewhere else, not hearing the announcement. Riser Phoenix has retired, the winner of this match is Ria's Gremory. Other than that total silence, no one dared to make a move or anything. Thank you Greenie-kun, I would repay you for sure. That was the thought of the winner of the rating game for her marriage against a fried chicken. Gabriel asked Izuku after the gate on Friday, you have 2 gate keys darling. After getting a nod from Izuku, why not complete one of them this weekend? She asked, actually curious. One of the keys is an S rank, the puzzle collection, but the other is the one I am interested about. He pulled out a jet black key with golden lines occasionally going down the key. Item name. Item class. Type. Key. Location. Mount Everest Peak. Flying lizards may be present at the peak of the world. I will need to go to Mount Everest and to the peak. Izuku told his girlfriend. The two of them were snuggling with each other, with Gabriel on top of him lying down. Gabriel's legs intertwined with Izuku's own and Izuku hugging her. This will ruin the 3 girls to get close with Izuku. Putting her face a couple of centimeters above Izuku's own, her whisper sent shivers of ecstasy down his spine. Why not only you, me and the army do this gate darling? Izuku could see a gentle smile on Gabriel's face. Smiling back, he leaned his face forward allowing the two to lock lips, with a battle of the tongues happening. Sure. I am lucky that there is no lesson on Saturday this week. Trying to get more kisses, Gabriel leaned her head forward allowing his head to rest properly on the pillow. The two kissed for another couple of minutes until they fell asleep. No one noticed the wet spot that had formed from Gabriel's southern regions. Next day. It was 7 AM and now Izuku was inside the office with Nezu. So you want to go to Mount Everest Peak, right? Getting a nod, the mouse god continued, this is where you will find this gate that flying lizards are located in, right? Getting a nod back from Izuku, Nezu hummed and thought, you don't know the gate's rank, right? Yes, I don't. I have a feeling that the flying lizards mean dragon-type monsters, and I don't have a good feeling even bringing Rumi or anyone in it. Izuku explained. Nezu just nodded, I see. Well, you can go, and if the gate takes you longer than expected, don't worry about education. Bowing, thank you. I have written a note and made some breakfast for my class, so they already know of it. Izuku said, and in a swirl he left to Rumi's apartment. Japan, Hisashi Midoriya location. We could see a man with shaggy black hair lying down on an alley floor with blood coming out of his mouth, some slash wounds in his chest area, and a stab wound making his black suit red. I am sorry Izuku, I love you. With that, the Midoriya patriarch died because of a planned attack. He was finishing business and was planning to visit his son soon, but all of that wasn't able to happen. Sorry, you didn't deserve this, Hisashi Midoriya. If your son wasn't this powerful, all would have gone according to my master's plan. A man with his hood over his face spoke in a monotone. That man had some burn marks. Other than that, there was only one thing visible, a red feather. With Izuku. For some reason, Izuku's heart ached, but he allowed not to think about it and left Rumi's house after some kissing to Mount Everest. He was glad that he has elemental resistance now as the temperature was -50°C atop Mount Everest. Pulling out the key, he walked in the portal, ignoring the hundreds of flags representing different countries. You have entered a gate. Danger. Seeing the notification, an uneasy feeling came over him, so activating skill Infinity he moved down the path. All around him were mountains and hills of different size, but when activating his Sharingan, he saw barriers of some sort around some specific areas, so this is similar to the Angel Castle and the Circles of Hell. Gabriel came out, you feel it too, darling? She spoke in a hushed tone. Izuku nodded, then a royal ire came out from all around them. Quest. Dragon's Kingdom defeat the Great Eight. There are 8 different zones, and you need to go to each one to be able to leave the gate. Rewards. Reward 1. Reward 2. Reward 3. Defeated. 08. So I will need to defeat the 8 dragons. Izuku mused to himself as he deactivated Infinity. He smiled as his MP is replenishing a little faster than before. Looking down he saw the new addition, an S-rank item that he had to spend 10,500,000,000 G for. This was an item he needed as he could easily lose all of his MP if he fought against a strong monster. Ring of Magic. Item class. S. Type. Ring. Replenishes 500 mana per min. Item used by magicians of a high caliber, it replenishes 500 MP per minute until the mana stores is full. This item can be equipped, stored, or sold. Now he can replenish 510 MP per min, which would be handy in a bind. Walking down a rocky path, he looked around and saw nothing out of the ordinary if we ignore the freezing cold that he is in. You have entered the domain of the water dragon. From all around him, Izuku could see rivers not frozen over with piles of snow around. Come forth. With that, all of Izuku's army left his shadow to help their liege defeat what was coming. Ice lizards. Water serpents. Snow lizards. Those names that were colored with a tint of yellow, raising an eyebrow seeing the 3 species. Izuku just pointed his hand and the shadows clashed with the monsters. The ice lizards had the shape of a lizard but had icicles as protection. Water serpents were colored blue but had wings allowing them to fly, but mostly stayed in water or slithered in the snow as they did not have any feet. Finally, snow lizards had a white skin tone, but they camouflaged with the snow easily. Of Katsumi, Shoko and Heian. This is the day. They all thought, but when they got downstairs they saw a large buffet with food and a note reading. I am out on business in Mount Everest. I don't know when I will be back, but hopefully by Monday. We are all going to a B-rank gate on Wednesday afternoon, so train well with your weapons. I have some books for some basic weapon use here, other than that have fun. Izuku Midoriya. P.S. Enjoy breakfast. Yeah, the girls were not happy campers, but did enjoy their breakfast immensely. When Izawa came into the dorms at noon to talk to some of his students, he saw all but one downstairs chilling or doing homework. So Izuku already left here. Then you spoke respectfully, yes he is sensei, is something wrong? There is a matter concerning him, but I will say it to him when he comes back. Anyways, Mihik and Zest have gone to Ketsubutsu, and now you will be having Titania and Kamikaze for the week. They are expecting you all to meet them in an hour in training ground B. With that he left. With Rumi. Entering her friend's agency, Rumi was in deep thought ignoring her surroundings, but was surprised seeing Hawks with Ryukyu. Oh, am I intruding on something? With a grin, Hawks replied, hey Maruko. Ryukyu nodded to her friend, not really, Hawks was informing me of something. Rumi quirked her eyebrow as she plopped down on a couch, can I know? The HSPC want to talk to all of S-rank heroes, this includes the provision ones. Hawks told her. So Izuku will need to be there? I am guessing Najire-chan, Lemillion and Sun Eater too. Rumi asked, she didn't know what to think of this at this moment. She knew that the HSPC can do anything to get what they want done, but she didn't even know how far. Ryuko nodded, yes, Hawks just informed me to bring Najire to this meeting. When was it again? It is this Tuesday. I was actually about to meet up with you Maruko. Hawk said with a grin. Didn't they just send a message? Maruko asked impatiently. They don't want anyone seeing this message so more havoc would be caused. Hawks replied smoothly. Would that be it? Ryuko asked, she did want to spend time with her friend, and this hotshot was wasting her time. My, what is the rush? A teasing voice came from the Birdman, for some reason Rumi started to feel uncomfortable for some reason. Then at that moment a near high-end Nomu smashed into the location of the 3 S-rank heroes. Somewhere close by. Abi was smirking, he was asked to test this Nomu out that was a high-end, but had some monster blood in it, so it will be wilder. The League of Villains is working with Overhaul and test running if they would accept or not. Of course they wouldn't accept, but they needed to get a player out of the game. Now the doctor contacted the group with Kurogiri and presented a near high-end Nomu and to ask them to test it out as it has a few new features that they took from monster corpses. With Hawks on their side, even if they suspect him to be a spy, it was a perfect moment to take Atlas Dawn of the 2S rank heroes out of the game. Abi wouldn't mind if Hawks was killed too, he didn't like that Birdman and he saw what he did to his sister's crush's father. Even he wouldn't do that as he respected Izuku for putting his father in his place multiple times and beating him up easily on TV. Additionally, he isn't as petty to kill a hero's family member he respected, that is too low for him. Like Tamura said, Izuku Midoriya is different than other heroes and he liked the way Izuku dealt with some villains. A smile then appeared on his face, who knew that having a camera record the killing would be useful. Not only would it show that the HSPC will be shown in a bad light, but also heroes, hopefully the one he respected will have some peace. But now he let the Nomu that was 3 meters tall and as wide as All Might out of a portal towards the dragon's agency. The Nomu had black skin with yellow eyes that had a long elephant trunk under it. It had claws that could easily rip a person, but the best thing was that it only listened to himself and the regeneration factor was amazing. Then Dabi's eyes widened seeing that Maruko was present too. This may be interesting, but Hawks lied to us. And another place that normal humans can't go to. Not many knew of the factions such as the Greek, Devils, Shinto and so on. But the news of some of their replicas are seen being the monsters in the gates was something else. Reports of the supernatural entering gates and occasionally seeing devil monsters, angel monsters or even mythological monsters. So it was no surprise that there was a meeting in the underworld between the 4 strongest devils. We need to do something about it. Seraphol Leviathan, one of the great 4 devils, spoke clearly. Ajuka Beelzebub spoke, we are lucky that it is only affecting Earth and not any of our dimensions. But it is still troubling. Albumus Madius continued, our army is being trained at a harder rate than before, we sent out more devils in our territories to deal with the gates. However, we are losing 16% more devils than pre-gate time. Frowning, the leader of the 4 Satan Surziches Lucifer hummed, this is troubling news. I must say though, if we didn't have the help of one Izuku Midoriya, then more of our kind would have been lost before an identification method for the gates would have been found. Seraphol pipped in, isn't he one of the strongest humans? Ajuka nodded, from some of our spies, when I given them a measuring device it is officially confirmed that he is the strongest human. Although, I am pretty sure he doesn't know of us. The only female Satan asked, should we make contact or make it natural? Surziches was in deep thought but spoke, I may have a way, we need to get Cow involved though. Then the group started to listen to the plan with the others changing some ways to make it a more favorable situation. With Izuku. You leveled up. After defeating over 100 of each of the 3 species, that is how long it takes to level up heh. Izuku thought to himself. The 3 lizards that only had the height of 1.5 meters could defeat a knight but struggled with the elite knights and so forth. So after reviving them he wasn't shocked seeing them become an elite knight. 20 Ice Lizard LV.4, Elite Knight. 20 Water Serpent LV.4, Elite Knight. 20 Snow Lizard LV.4, Elite Knight. So with the addition of the 60 shadows, he continued forth with his army of 600. The path got colder, but also more water was seen that put Izuku's guard up. The opposition this time was something he didn't expect, orange-named lizards with wings that had ice-cold blue eyes staring deep into someone's soul. The ice lizards could shoot ice spikes at the opponents, the water serpents can control water, and the snow lizards controlled snow. But the one species opposing them could apparently do all 3, but Izuku had a feeling that this wasn't the boss. Water manipulating Draco. The white-skinned Dracos shot different attacks including ice needles to water cannons and snow hurricanes. Pain used Shinra Tensei to clear the view allowing the Shadow Army to continue marching forward. Izuku flew on Casel whilst shooting some arrows from the shadow-produced bow, he could create basic armor, but so far he preferred what he was wearing. Although he did have to sometimes use the shadows to protect Casel from any attacks. Igris was chopping down the heads of the Dracos whilst Baruka, Rusalka, Fisher and the Vodunois were having trouble as their attacks could be redirected. Vidara shone like a star here with his clay attacks bombarding the ranks of the monsters, reducing them easily. Danger. 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 The Great Water Dragon was awakened. Izuku gulped, a red name he didn't see that for a long time, but what could he do but level up? But Aizawa, some time before Nomu attack. After informing the class, he went to Nezu's office, knocking and getting permission to enter. Nezu asked, is there anything wrong Shota? And then T. Nodding for T, Shota asked, what will we tell Izuku? The smile was gone, Nezu understood it. He was called by the police after a civilian found the body of a dead Hisashi Midoriya. When he will be he was cut short as one of the monitors was showing red. Going onto the computer Nezu's cup of tea fell. Now Aizawa worried, Nezu doesn't drop his tea, what's wrong? What the animal quirk user did was turn the monitor around, revealing what was happening at Ryukyu's agency. A reporter that was close by was showing it off, and now people are watching it. When the Nomi attacked, Rumi could feel some type of danger, so when she jumped back she saw a Nomu in front of the trio. Going forward she kicked the Nomu trying to push it back, but instead it caught her leg and threw Maruko out of the window. She was lucky that she had some regeneration as some of the annoying cuts were regenerating. Ryukyu wasn't doing any better. After being pushed back from the explosion, she jumped out of the window and transformed into a dragon, whilst the Nomu stayed and saw Hawks, who had his eyes widen. Quickly Hawks rushed outside near the dragon hero with the battle about to begin. Izuku was walking down the street and saw a portal form. Seeing that it was a D-rank, he let Tadara out. 1 minute later. Booms and kabooms. Then the mad bomber came out with an innocent smile on his face. How the hell did I even hear it? Shouldn't gates be soundproof? Izuku muttered. The only thing that Tadara could say meaning Yarahim. Asphalting, Izuku asked, why not blow up Antarctica if you want to explode stuff? Izuku was too late to recall his shadow. 10 minutes later. Boom. Urgent news. Antarctica is now gone. Save the penguins, they say. Now there are no penguins. Danger. 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 Looking around and trying to sense where the being is that his danger sense is blaring like mad, Izuku froze seeing what was coming out of a cave in the mountain. The Great Water Dragon was awakened. Great Water Dragon Jormungand. Izuku gulped. A red name. The last time he actually saw a proper red name was against Michael, as Barry didn't have such an intense color even. Great Water Dragon Jormungand is using the skill. Absolute Zero. The magnificent dragon that height was a head lower than Tusk in his large form, shot a white substance from her mouth that Izuku could see has a freezing effect on everything but the Dracos. The shadows of Izuku's army tried shielding themselves or using fire-based attacks, but nothing was working. Izuku infusing MP to the skill. Fire manipulation, it made the flames turn black instead of its orangey red. The two separate colors clashed with each other, with Tusk and the magicians using a power-up spell to help their liege. The thrown angels that had the most powerful fire but are weak to everything else helped stopping the spread of the absolute zero all around. Cooldown. 3 minutes. Skill. Fire manipulation leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5, evolved. Zero mana skill, can use fire as an attack, defense, or support. Max temperature is 4000 C without mana. If mana is added, then the intensity can change. Seeing that it has a cooldown, Izuku yelled, all elite knights and lower finish of the Dracos. Captains and Gabriel, please help me deal with Jormungand. Getting nods from his shadows, the massive group separated. Kisum was the one that surprised Izuku. He attacked the dragon from behind, tearing some skin off the white beauty. Then the tail that had eye spikes at the end smashed Kisum into shadows. It started to move its back, allowing its powerful wings out of the frozen shell. Cracking could be heard as Jormungand sent out water attacks to flood the army away. The wings started to stretch, revealing a light blue underwing, whilst the rest was pure white with claws at the end of each frontal joint. From under the wings Izuku swore he saw snowflakes being formed. Then, eyes widening, he tried to use his shadows to impale the dragon, but with a fierce flap of her wings, got the dragon of the ground soaring into the air. Summoning his spear, he threw it with spear throw, but to his surprise the Jormungand dodged to the left, swinging in the air with grace. Making the Longinus return to him, Izuku used float to be on an even plane with the dragon and was shortly joined with Gabriel, Mikao, Beru, Pain and Raphael. The rest of the captains made sure to finish of the hordes of the Dracos and the lizards that came to the rescue of their leader. Izuku understood it and nodded to all. Pain, summon a flying animal. I will have Kaisel up here. Nodding, Pain summoned the bird with Rinnegan eyes. Raphael and Gabriel done a combined attack of light spears, whilst Mikao sent out spikes from one of its mouths. Beru then went in to attack the dragon, whilst the Rinnegan bird was trying to help. Smirking, Izuku flicked a blue from his gravity manipulation but continued shooting whilst Jormungand was trying to dodge all of the attacks. Sadly for the dragon, the last bullet couldn't be dodged, and with the pressure of the captains and the general its wing got crushed. Not wanting to die, the dragon sent a tsunami of water out of its mouths all around itself and then started to control the snow around it to make itself harder to be seen. Sadly for Jormungand, Izuku had his sensing ability, which he used to get in close, and with the full might of his strength, punched the dragon upwards where Gabriel was, although he winced from hitting the scales. His girlfriend rose her leg upwards and smashed the head of the dragon, caving it, killing the first great dragon. Great Water Dragon Jormungand has been defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Wow, that took longer than expected. Let's clear this area up and go towards the next. You have received Dragon Pass. All dragons will grow proportionally to your dragon levels, however there are 2 stronger than most. Izuku quirked an eyebrow but went to the corpse of the dragon. Kneeling down he said, "Arise. You have failed to extract the shadow. You still have 2 chances remaining. So, this inst as strong as the monsters can get. They can get stronger also what her name?" Izuku thought but once more in a commanding tone spoke, "Arise Mizuchi." Black tendrils started to come out of the body with a head starting to form. The larger more imposing figure was shown with Jormungand being taller than originally and had 2 wings at the back. The main change was her tail that had eye spikes and at the end a club. She had white skin with black highlights that produced smoke. Finally when she stretched her wings out black smoke started to come out. Mizuchi LV.1, Commander. Shadow Army. You have only unlocked 7 ranks. Normal to elite to knight to elite knight to captain to general to commander. Normal. Their strength is C rank. Their level cap is LV.10, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite. Their strength is B rank. Their level cap is LV.20. Then you need to upgrade them manually. Knight. Their strength is A rank. Their level cap is LV.30, then you need to upgrade them manually. Elite Knight. Their strength is low to mid S rank. Their level cap is 40, then you need to upgrade them manually. Captain. Their strength is high S rank to low national level. Their level cap is 50, then you need to upgrade them manually. General. Their strength is mid to high national level. Their level cap is 60, then you need to upgrade them manually. Commander. Their strength is low international level. Their level cap is 70, then you need to upgrade them manually. Wow Mizuchi. Izuku patted the white dragon on the head, "Can you talk?" After the bow that the dragon gave Izuku, in a gentle but powerful female tone, Mizuchi spoke, "I can, my liege." Izuku smiled back at her, "I hate to ask, but which dragon do you recommend for me to take on?" "I would recommend my brother the Earth Dragon, my liege," Mizuchi said. Looking a little guilty Izuku asked, "I am sorry to ask, but are you okay fighting your siblings?" "Worry not my liege, after being reborn I feel free as if the shackles that this world held is no more. My brethren will feel the same," Mizuchi spoke in a gentle tone. After that Izuku arose 50 water manipulating Draco and changing their name to something different. Their shape completely changed into a light blue shadow with a height of 2 meters with wings at the back, but had head flaps that could spread wider, so they can sense some more powerful powers. 50 water Draco LV.30, Elite Knight. With Rumi. Jumping from building to building, she saw Ryukyu in her dragon form and hawks hovering above the buildings in front of the Nomu. The elephant Nomu that I will be calling sent a massive gust of wind through its nose destabilizing Kigo, whilst Ryuko got pushed back a little bit. Seeing an opportunity, she leaped from a building holding the night killer that Izuku gave to her during their first and accidental raid. She wished she was with Izuku, but sadly Rumi had plans with Ryukyu for the day, such as discussing what Sir Night-Eye asked and completing a B-rank gate. She couldn't help but smirk thinking that Izuku is killing of dragons. This would be a shock for her friend, but ignoring that her adrenaline was pumping throughout her body anticipating this fight. When jumping towards the Nomu, Rumi used her telekinetic power to pull herself towards it and got ready to slash the trunk. Much to her surprise, the dagger only digged in about 3 centimeters until she was pushed back. Ryukyu used this moment to fly towards it and try to bite the Nomu in 2, but much to everyone's surprise, the Nomu caught the top and bottom jaws and started to swing her around throwing her into a building. Hawk sent out some feathers to try to cause some damage whilst thinking, "This is getting worse than I thought." Then the Nomu moved finally getting behind him and smashing its trunk in the side of the hero, making him cough some blood. Then he was atop of Ryukyu groaning. Cursing silently, Rumi kept her smirk as she hopped around missing the elongated trunk of the Nomu whilst trying to cause some damage with a dagger. She really had to thank Izuku with a healing ability as she did get stronger and faster from it repairing her torn muscles. Dodging another slash from the trunk, she jumped upwards and when falling down she did her Luna kick, but with the Nomu raising its hand up, it blocked stopping Rumi who used her leg power to jump away. Looking around she saw that the other 2S ranks started to get up and the sidekicks of Ryukyu's agency started to get everyone away. She then suddenly saw the building that the dragon woman was thrown in start to collapse. Seeing closely she saw 2 young girls standing there not knowing what to do, cursing her hero heart, she had to reveal her power. Rising her hand up, she caught all of the falling debris and pushed it away, just in time for a sidekick to pick the 2 up and rush away. Although a shadow started to come out from her shadow, finally. With Nezu and Izawa. Interesting, so this is exactly what Izuku meant. Nezu mused to himself as he and Izawa both were watching the news of the situation. Having a raised eyebrow, Shota asked, Izuku gave her the power to use telekinesis. Not really, he found it in a dungeon, and as he already had a similar power he gave it to Maruko as they entered the same gate. Nezu explained towards one of his teachers. With 1A. Quiet, all of them were watching the news stations love doing it nowadays, but a lot of people looked at Rumi in a new light. Most thought she was an adrenaline junkie, but it wasn't as true as they believed. It looked similar to what Izuku and Star and Stripe had to face. Mina commented. Katsumi grunted a response, this one looks weaker than the one at Kimono, it isn't as dark as the slime was, but darker than the USJ one. Shoko spoke, Izuku is most probably in a gate so he won't know about it. Enki offhandedly said, is it me or is Izuku the one that actually keeping the peace in Japan nowadays? Like look, he pointed at the screen showing Slimy who replaced the elite knight he had in Rumi's shadow in the morning. This shadow is dealing more damage to the Nomu than the 3 S ranks combined. Everyone looked at Denki for some time. Ioka broke the silence, I hate to admit it, but the idiot is correct. All Might is mostly teaching here whilst Izuku and his shadows deal with the Nomus, gates and villains. I can only see Maruko and Endeavor be any use, and the other S ranks wouldn't be any use. The atmosphere was weird to say the least, all of them wanted to become heroes one way or another, but knowing that there are big fish that most S ranks can't handle was something. It was surprisingly Chika who continued, we are becoming reliant on Izuku, even if he is okay mostly with that, he won't be everywhere at once. Itachi nodded, whilst I may not be the best at fighting the monsters, villains is another thing, and we all must help in one way or the other. It was weird seeing the usually tired and unmotivated teen say these things, but everyone nodded, they needed to become stronger. Suddenly shadow soldiers came from all of 1AS shadows, with Beast being the de facto leader being the strongest, he pointed at the screen, then pointed to himself. Understanding what it was saying Katsumi spoke, go, help Maruko and the others. When the shadow came out of Rumi's shadow. It was Slimy, the shadow soldier that Izuku exchanged for Aleshi. Izuku knew that if anything came up during the time away that Slimy would step in. So now was the time, he allowed Rumi to see that her alone won't do much now as she couldn't fly, but with himself by her side, she won't die. Slimy being made of slime used it to his advantage catching the trunk and going around it to attach itself. The next thing was the Nomu pulling in Slimy who tried covering the Nomu to kill it, but as always the Nomu had an ace up its sleeve, wind. The wind was released from every part of the Nomu's build that got Slimy's slime away, now going into a fist fight, Slimy saw that Rumi was back in the game. The rabbit woman shouted, Luna Rush. Powerful kicks connected to the Nomu's body, pushing it back some allowing the shadow to try and destroy the body of the Nomu. The regeneration factor, that was what Rumi hated the most, herself and Slimy destroyed the torso of the Nomu, but it was regenerated within a second. We need some fire. Rumi muttered and Slimy understood. Ryukyu tried it going at the Nomu again to help her friend trying to claw the Nomu, but it being blocked by the arm, she was pushed back a bit, but this allowed Rumi to kick the head of the Nomu away. But to their frustration, the body regenerated from the neck down, telling them that this will be a harder fight than they originally thought. Ox tried to use his larger wing to make a sword and slash, but the two backfired amazingly, the Nomu caught one of the two red wings and spun the hero away, getting a wing torn from the hero's body. Slimy sped to the Nomu and both went into a fist fight, making Slimy slowly the winner, but the trunk and the wind power was keeping the slime shadow from using its killing technique of absorbing the opponent. But the Nomu was also having hard time getting rid of the shadow, wind, and its general punches don't do damage, and the both went into a deadlock. Suddenly 20 shadows surrounded the Nomu and the captain. Beast and 2 Leshy being the elite knights whilst the 17 others being 4 winged angels. The angels started to shoot light beams at the Nomu that surprisingly caused its regeneration to slow down. Beast jumped in and started to exchange blows, whilst the 2 Leshy extended their arms and held the Nomu down, whilst Slimy started to break down the skin of the Nomu. The angels during this time continued to save the civilians, whilst shooting light beams trying to get the trunk Nomu down. It took one of the angels up close and a massive light beam into the head of the Nomu to make the Nomu fall down. Then to everyone's surprise the Nomu's body disappeared thanks to the shadows' shared skill of shared inventory. Whilst other shadows went into shadows, the angels stayed to heal up the injured. Sadly they couldn't heal the wing back from Hawks, so Kigo will need to have it regrow naturally. Although, Slimy stayed with Rumi for a while to make sure the shitstorm was over. Then the reporters started to come closer and ask questions. With Dabi, he had a smirk on his face, he found out that without Izuku's shadows, then the S-rank heroes were nearly useless to a specialized Nomu. Dabi's mood was risen after Hawk's wing was ripped out and the hero couldn't even have it heal, but with natural growth. Kurogiri opened the gate and entered seeing his leader. Tamura after hearing the news from Dabi couldn't help but smirk, Dabi had to leave as he knew that Slimy could beat him without the villain dying. So now Tamura thought, the infiltration into the Yakuza isn't that bad. Toga and Twice reported that they anticipate a raid from the heroes in the upcoming week. My strength is going up, but Izuku won't like what Hawks did. This won't affect us anyways, just the hero community. Then speaking to Dabi, contact La Brava, have her send the video into the TVs showing Hawks killing Izuku's dad. Dabi nodded, with that he sent the video to the League's ally awaiting the news. With Izuku in the Earth Dragon's domain. You have entered the Great Earth Dragon domain. Rocks, with lava streams coming from the hills. The sky was darker and then once again the three minor species that had the power of an elite knight came rushing in their hundreds. The first species was totally brown with no wings, but they stopped first, sitting down and opening their mouths. That was a light yellow name lizard species, but Izuku understood why they stood far, they were long-range due to their shooting ability. Earth-shooting lizard. The next one had orange cracks in their skin, sharp claws, but they stopped last ready to prepare an attack. Lava lizard. The one that stopped just behind the lava lizards had a rocky outer shell and had a long tail, they looked similar to a pangolin. Rolling rocking lizard. Having some of his shadows make a wall just in time for the hundreds of rocks being shot from the earth, shooting lizard's mouth towards him, then Mizuchi froze the ground, freezing the lava that the lava lizard spat out. The giant dragon was sure and intimidating, with Izuku barely being larger than her eyeball. The wave of rolling rocking lizards were killed down pretty easily with the lizard shadows freezing them, or by another use of magic, as physical attacks were useless. Wanting to level up a skill or two, Izuku sent out shadows piercing many lizards, the captains all continued to slaughter them, but the army of those pesky lizards never seemed to die down. Until a new opposition came, those Dracos all stood somewhere on the mountains and had their tails up and above their head, shooting rocks piercing some shadows. Izuku blocked a couple with his dagger even without the need of danger sense. Experience was key, over-reliance on one thing can be a downfall, that is what Izuku believed. Earth manipulating Draco. But the turn of events, he infused his mana into the ground sprouting wood, piercing many of the Dracos up on the mountains. The brownish creatures tried to move the earth to block from the wood, but it was fruitless, most died one way or another. But a couple of them survived. So snipers. I wonder if they are any good close range. What happened next could be predicted with ease. More Earth Dracos came out of the earth, most probably digging through, and started to use earth manipulation to destroy some of the shadows. Danger. 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 The Great Earth Dragon was awakened. Great Earth Dragon Territor. The same size as his sister, Territor stood strong with rock armor around his body, but had red lines that looked like cracks. The piercing brown eyes looked deep into Izuku's normal green, a smirk appeared on the human's face as he called out domain of the Monarch, with it a black circle that reached far allowed all of the summons to have a purple tint, increasing their strength by 50% more. Great Earth Dragon Territor is using the skill. Sandstorm. Barriers made of shadow from Izuku and Dracula, a barrier from Tusk and finally water shots from the water serpents and the Eastern European monster shadows. That was a successful tactic as not only did it protect the group from the harsh sand, but also the sneak snipper attacks. Jumping with Mizuchi, the both of them went towards the dragon who sent earth boulders at them. Dodging out of the way, Izuku shouted Mizuchi. I want to try something. Go on my liege. The dragon replied. Smirking, Izuku jumped atop of Mizuchi and placed his hands on her head, he then shouted, Susanoo. With that the ethereal figure covered the white dragon with black armor, the head of the dragon had a horn, and there was another pair of wings, allowing the two to fly faster. This feels amazing my liege. Mizuchi commented, and now the dragon went through a wall that Territor created, shocking the other dragon, until the two forces clashed creating winds and pushing all other shadow under captain rank away. Gabriel looked worried at Izuku, not paying attention to the multiple Dracos she shot down with the lightning magic. The two forces collided and it seemed that no one is winning so far. Until Izuku heard a crack, luckily it wasn't from the construct that he made, but on the other dragons. Stepping backwards, Territor revealed his wings and started to fly in the air. Mizuchi used her absolute zero but the skill that the Earth Dragon produced shocked the duo. Great Earth Dragon Territor is using the skill. Absolute defense. It is pretty controversial if a defense is absolute, for example the Susanoo is one, but also the infinity, however the earth that was somehow forming in mid-air protecting the monster was something to be impressed about. Gabriel came flying over and whilst standing on the head of Mizuchi she asked her lover, what's the plan darling? The defense is pretty amazing. Remember Tenchi, the best defense is a strong offense. With that he called out blue. And a blue sphere that was the size of a marble, expanded being as big as a golf ball. Both himself and Gabriel felt the pull, and with flicking it, the so-called absolute defense crumpled into nothing allowing Itachi to shoot Amaterasu flames that was enhanced by Mikau's wind. Gabriel further enhanced it by sending concentrated light beams that could pierce even steel into the flames, masking their presence. A shout was heard from inside the fire attack, but much to their shock lava was being shot around. Izuku lost over 10,000 MP from the shadow regeneration, as all but captains and higher turned into smoke. Not wanting to lose any more mana from his shadows regenerating, he summoned his spear and threw it with spear throw, making it have a hole through its body. Using this opportunity, Izuku summoned Kusanagi and allowed it to extend, making it slash through the dragon's head, beheading it and killing it. All in all, this biome took Izuku and his group around 2 hours. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Skill. Spear throw has leveled up from LV.6 to LV.7. Deal extra damage by throwing your spear. As the skill's level increases, damage and accuracy will increase 25 MP. Defeated. 2/8. Walking closer to the dragon corpse, Izuku squatted down and spoke, "Arise and join your sister Teruter." With that, a brown-black shadow arose the same size as his sister Mizuchi. The end of the tail increased in length and had a massive circular hammer with spikes. The biggest difference was that the dragon now lost its wings, but gained the ability to travel underground. Now he arose the earth-manipulating Dracos, turning their name to be Earth Draco. They didn't change much, but they lost their wings, but something similar to what the tails had been. Now on their backs, they had 2 of such guns, whilst the tail had extra spikes. The 3 lizards, rolling rocking lizards, had kept their shape. Lava lizards had too kept their shape, but had orange lines through their skin. Earth-shooting lizards had a gun on their backs. Other than that was it. Pretty simple, but for low elite knights, that is another 60 low S ranks. Izuku thought to himself, he had a lot of space in Save Shadow, and with every level he gets the amount increases exponentially. A smile appeared on his face, as he also promoted a dozen or so shadows into a higher grade too. Teruter LV.3, Commander. 20 Rolling Rocking Lizard LV.6, Elite Knight. 20 Lava Lizard LV.6, Elite Knight. 20 Earth Shooting Lizard LV.6, Elite Knight. 50 Earth Draco LV.32, Elite Knight. You leveled up. How did I level up right now? Izuku asked to no one specifically. Gabriel came and spoke, "Look in your inventory, darling, there is something happening in the outside world." Doing so, he got the body of the elephant Nomu. Izuku quirked an eyebrow, so Nomu was released, that is why some of my MP was going down slowly. Getting a confused look from his girlfriend, he explained, "As you know, I put Slimy into Rumi's shadow today morning and took Aleshi back just in case. When there was barely any fighting going on, my MP was being reduced at a concerning rate, as the shadows here didn't take much damage. Are you sure the rabbit is alright, darling?" Even though the duo may not always see eye to eye, the two had a healthy rivalry, and even Gabriel respected Maruko. There are some power angels with them, so Rumi will be healed anyway. Izuku spoke in a gentle tone. "Arise." Trunk the Nomu with the trunk had its shadow rise and form into one of his shadow soldiers, adding another to his collection. Trunk LV.30, Elite Knight, near high-end Nomu. Then a gruff and definitely masculine voice spoke from behind the two, "My liege, I thank thee for this opportunity to meet thine sibling." An older for formal language was spoken by Teruter. Izuku smiled and spoke, "I will be hoping to reunite all of you together. But which one of your siblings should we be heading to? Before we fight against our 2 elder siblings that can control the darkness and the light, I would recommend to fight our brother that can control wind. With my prowess in water can reduce the fire, whilst Teruter can block the attacks, my liege." Mizuchi spoke. Izuku was happy that he had more shadows that could speak. Teruter had a weird way of speaking, but at least he wasn't Burrow, who wanted to kill anyone who even sent minor amounts of killing intent at his master. "Okay, Mizuchi. Let's go to the fire domain." With that, the pass allowed them to enter the fire dragon domain. You have entered the great fire dragon's domain. Real world. Labrava, otherwise known as Manami Iba, she was a fangirl for Gentle, but she had the ability to use computers that some hackers would be jealous of. When Dobby sent a video and asked her to put it instead of the news, she started doing it. There are some reasons why she would agree with it. She and Gentle met with Izuku by accident, and the Gentle soul had some tea with Gentle, not caring if he was a criminal. He heard the story from the both of them and helped them. Now Labrava was mad towards the HPSC, but especially Hawks, as it was a common fact that Hawks takes orders from the commission. Now it was her turn to inform everyone what the top hero organization did. So after 2 hours of planning and getting into some servers, she waited for the peak viewership and then posted the video. All major news channels, other popular channels and electronic ads in city centers had one video with some subtitles explaining what was happening with a close-up of Hawks in perfect view. Monarch is probably in Nepal or China, so he won't know it until much later. She muttered out loud. As everyone knows, big news travel fast. Especially when someone hacks into the big leagues, making more people see it what they want to have seen. Labrava theorized that the majority of Japan will know of it by the end of the day at the latest. The video started by a gray screen that seemed to be bugging out, then what seemed for the camera to be adjusting at an angle, where you could see the hero and the one on the floor. A black suit colored red was Hisashi Midoriya, whilst a man standing in a cloak but could have some of his wings shown and face was Hawks. The hero got one of his wings from the body of Izuku's father, with some blood being sprayed out. All sound-producing screens could hear the man lying down say, "I am sorry Izuku, I love you." Then life escaped from the eyes of the man. Then the following words were heard from a distinctive voice, "Sorry, you didn't deserve this Hisashi Midoriya. If your son wasn't this powerful all would have gone according to my master's plan." The video zoomed into Hawk's face, then the hero left. During the video the subtitles read, "The Hero Public Safety Commission ordered Hawks the number 3 hero to kill an innocent civilian. The man is named Hisashi Midoriya, the national rank hero Izuku Midoriya otherwise known as the Shadow Hero. Monarch father. We believe the HPSC did this to show that they would do anything to control Monarch. A shitstorm is beginning to start. With 1A. All of them were chilling in the common room talking about the fight that Maruko, Ryukyu and Hawks had with Inomu. Until the TV turned grey. "Hey, what is Gotenki, quiet it down." Everyone looked at the screen and became horrified. That's Uncle Hisashi. Katsumi spoke in a whisper, but it was as clear as day for everyone to hear. In her mind was something else, not him too, from his best friend to now his second parent. Izuku's father. Chika spoke in shock. Now if her grandfather got out of jail, she will ask him to kill the HPSC first, after getting a blessing from him to allow her to marry Izuku of course. Izuku doesn't know it yet, does he? Shoko asked everyone. Then Yu shook his head. No, he is most probably in a gate, and as we know there is no signal at all. What do you think we should do? Momo asked everyone. She was as worried as everyone else in the dorm. Bushiro asked in an uncertain tone, what do you think will happen to Hawks in the HPSC? We all know how powerful Izuku is. Heian nodded. He never had to go full out, the last time was most probably during I-Island, but after discovering the gravity abilities, he doesn't need to go full out even against S-rank opponents. A shiver run down all of their spines. Teachers' dorm. None of the teachers had any patrols today, but all were discussing student progress and lesson plans, with the TV running in the background. After they heard "I am sorry Izuku, I love you." All became silent. The heroes watched the TV news about Hawk's killing of a student of theirs father. Izawa and Nezu both knew that as the police contacted them, but Midnight asked with a stutter, "Is this true?" Izawa sighed and nodded. "We were contacted by the police earlier on today. Hisashi Midoriya is no more." A sad tone was heard at the end, but some anger too. Hound dog just started barking, but everyone heard what was said between the lines, ignoring the barks. This is what he said, "The HPSC will pay for it." Nezu came down and nodded. "We have two options everyone, either we support Izuku Midoriya and release the post-mortem autopsy that had the evidence Hawks killed Izuku's father, but the funding from the HPSC will be none. Or we support the HPS." Nezu received glared that even made him shiver. "We will be supporting the problem child, the funding is nothing to what we earn without them. Add to that the gates that we close and the income we get from those and the support devices we create, money has nothing for us." Shota stated with a glare. Our loader then spoke up, "If you are worrying about income, we can create ways in support class. But I agree with Shota here, what teachers would we be if we didn't defend our students?" President Mick nodded. "We took a vow that we will protect our students to the very end. If this means making the support of the public be against the HPSC, so be it." And so on, all of the teachers agreed, but it came down to All Might. "I have to agree with everyone, but imagine if we didn't do anything. Izuku would have more reason of not even helping Japan, and I am sure his closest friends would go with him." All Might spoke and every teacher also realized that Izuku could do it and the Japan's trust in heroes would be at all-time low. During this time, Nezu posted the results and some fancy wording on the UA website. The evidence is increasing, but the people are realizing that it is not all heroes, but more specifically one organization, the HPSC. With Rumi. Some tears escaped from her eyes, she barely cried, but having her boyfriend's father that acted like a dad to her die to the person she met barely a couple hours ago. Is that why the HPSC wanted the S-rank heroes to meet up or anything? But she went to the hospital that Hawks was at, with anger boiling to the surface, wanting to smash a kick into the wing hero. Much to her surprise, there was a crowd in front of the hospital shouting for justice for Izuku. A small smile went on her face, but jumped above them, only to be stopped by men and women in black suits, and guns pointed towards Maruko. What the hell is happening? That fucker should be placed in jail and with the HPSC. Rumi spoke out loud, making the crowd behind her support her. One of the people spoke, "This is not your problem, you better turn around and continue with your patrol. You are raising a gun and expect me to turn around. What would you do if someone killed someone who you saw as a father figure?" Rumi spoke louder and louder. There is no concrete evidence that it was Hawks. The man was shut by Rumi opening her phone and tossing it to that man, who had his eyes widened and silently cursing. The man from behind Rumi placed a hand on her shoulder and spoke, "Let me deal with this Maruko." Then flashing a badge, "I am Detective Tsukauchi, All Might asked me to deal with this case. Would you let myself and my bodyguard Maruko through?" Maruko remembered that guy and continued with the play, but the spokesman for the black suits people, they said, "No can do, we have our orders from Madam President and we are not allowed anyone through." HPSC. It was chaos in the building. It was an hour after the statement from UA was released and the public is in an uproar. Izuku Midoriya was starting to become one of the people's favorite heroes and now the HPSC is being questioned about their activities. Not only did they have their special forces protecting Hawks that was going to be released into their care later on the day, they had to stop multiple people from breaking in, even the police. Now the public was questioning them as videos of their special forces, pointing guns towards heroes and police officers that are there to arrest Hawks for murder that was even off the books. Now the public was waiting for their statement and Izuku's return from a gate. Madam President was cursing under her breath, now she was making a way of blaming everything on a different party, such as the League of Villains. But Tamura. He had to admit that he has some sympathy for Izuku, but he smiled that the HPSC is destroying themselves. Overhaul, who sat next to him, also smirked but wasn't seen due to his mask, so not only did the Nomu fuck with some S ranks and making Hawks not fit for action for some time, but the HPSC is being destroyed by themselves. Overhaul smirked. Internally, Tamura frowned as he didn't like the man, but he had to suck his pride for some time and continue, "I actually feel bad for Monarch, the HPSC destroyed the last living part of his family. I don't even want to be against him if he is angry and goes full out." For the first time in his life, Overhaul was hit with the realization that his quirk may not work with the shadows. "I may have a problem with destroying his shadows. You know that I can disintegrate stuff, his shadows are not affected and regenerate." Tamura muttered angrily. "We need to deal with Monarch then. The source of energy is clearly him." But internally Overhaul thought, "I will need to get in contact with a guy in America, he could deal with Monarch for some time." With Izuku. "You have entered the Great Fire Dragon's domain." Everything was on fire, from red orangey flames to the bright white flames that escaped from the mountaintops with some sort of ash. Like always, 3 lizard species that had the height of 1.5 meter all started to come closer to the group of shadows. They still had yellow names, and Izuku guessed that they will continue being yellow due to this dungeon continuing to evolve as Izuku does. The first one had an ashy appearance, with wings on the back, but the main difference was that its throat was larger than other lizards. The second had a pure red appearance, red claws, red eyes, with the only speck of color was the white around the iris of their eye. Thirdly, the last lizard had a red color, but on their backs was what looked like a flamethrower. What the fuck? A flamethrower? What next? Sword lizards. Oh dear Izuku, you know that the writer loves fucking with the main character. Ash lizard. Blazing lizard. Flamethrowing lizard. My. I didn't expect to see this, darling. I thought they would be normal fire-spitting lizards. Gabriel commented. Izuku just smirked, "I cannot wait to test my flames with the fire dragon." It seemed that the army of the lizards are getting destroyed faster and faster with the increase, especially with the uncanny ability that Trunk has. The Trunk elongated, taking out multiple lizards. Summoning his fire, he shot it at some of the lizards, but to his surprise the ash lizard produced some of its ash, stopping the fire, protecting its kin. "Tenshi, you ready?" Izuku asked, with a grin. "Yes, let's kick some ass, darling." With that they created a massacre that was no joke. Skill. Hand-to-hand expert leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. The passive skill that gives you 70% more experience when using only hands for any kind of combat against a villain or monster. This was pretty handy, as the experience also adds to the invisible bar that is Izuku's level. So with the additional 5% increase, a new notification came upon. You leveled up. This may be from them facing more opponents than the other 2 domains had, but it could also be that Izuku was actually fighting, making his experience for the next level increase faster. Danger. The small chang in Izuku's head, but also the small notification, was seen and felt. He quickly activated Infinity and turned around to see he just blocked a tail of a new species. Fire manipulating Dracos. He remembered that once it would have been hard defeating a S-rank opponent, now it seemed like child's play. He summoned a dagger and with Vital Strike, another death of an orange Draco that the tail had a fire on the end. Izuku then extended his hands and used Darkness Overlord to kill dozens of the Dracos with spikes that came from the shadows. The lack of light makes more darkness, that is a rule of thumb, therefore the amount of darkness that is the shadows is lower, thanks to the great amount of fire present. He sent out fire from fire manipulation that burned some of the Dracos alive. Honen swept in and shot the survivors with her paper shuriken. Izuku sent a smile towards the purple shadow that caused a small blush to appear on her face, unknown to Izuku. Gabriel saw this. The Great Fire Dragon was awakened. Great Fire Dragon Kai. The beast was as tall as his brethren, but the red scales had an occasional wisp of fire coming from them. The crystal red eyes looked at Izuku and his siblings, then a massive wave of blue fire came. It was intercepted by Izuku's fire, the two forces clashed in the center of the battlefield. The majestic performance was soon over with Mizuchi dousing the fire, whilst Teruto shot earth spears towards his brother. Gabriel sent out some light spears, and Izuku threw his spear. All was dodged by the agile fire dragon. Kai continued to shoot blue fire from his mouth downwards, causing some shadows to once again become shadows. Pain started absorbing the fire, protecting some of the shadows, whilst the rest tried to shoot the dragon down. Trunk, who was joined in by Dracula, tried to capture the dragon, but both were covered in ash that with a click of Kai's teeth, a fiery explosion occurred. Izuku, seeing this, got in the air with Teruto, Mizuchi and Kaisel having a fight in the air. It was something to see. The length of each dragon was at least 4 times longer than their height, and they covered the majority of the sky. Igris, who was on the ground, used his angelic sword and with a slash cut down to 50% of the remaining Dracos, but that costed him some of the shadows. But he did level up by 2 levels from that one move. Then massive ice spikes appeared, puncturing a lot of the monsters. Baruka appeared with a smirk towards Igris. Who would have thought that the two would become fast friends? Amik. Izuku just arose. Mizuchi, thank you my liege for giving me another chance. It is no problem, Mizuchi. Izuku smiled at the dragon, then a bright light came to be, and he was hugged. Thank you, master. A lady in her early 20s hugged Izuku. She had white hair, a pair of dragon wings, and a draconic tail on the back that was all white. Now I can transform back into my human form and have hatchlings of my own with you. Then she started pulling her master with her, not realizing that she was naked in front of her liege. She may also not seen the red face of Izuku as she was pulling him to a cave with him. Hey, what you doing to darling? He will have babies with me first. Gabriel shouted, then a catfight occurred. Izuku chuckled mentally and tried to interfere only for them to punch him, but his infinity blocked it. Then continued to rip their hair and scratch each other. I will let you two get at it then. That is a reason why Izuku didn't come out of the gate for at least 3 days. Whilst the girls continued to punch and scratch, Izuku finished off all of the dragons by himself and the rest of the shadow army. When he came back, he could see the duo still fighting, but the domain of the water dragon had nothing in it anymore. Craters, fires, ice spikes, smashed mountains and deformed rivers, all littered in the domain. Women are scary sometimes. Izuku thought to himself. The air was chaotic, 2 large dragons and a wyvern against a large fire dragon in the air. The effects of the clash caused some of the shadows to disappear. Izuku, wanting to finish this fight soon, used a job-specific skill. Domain of the Monarch, and like a switch, all shadows had some purple tint to it. The boost of power made the battle in the sky turn into Izuku's favor faster than before. Wanting to try and level his 3rd skill, he used flight and flew with the beasts and was currently holding Samehada. The sword was shaving of the skin from the area boss, and some blue blood was leaking out. Great Fire Dragon Kai is using the skill. Evaporation of the weak. Quirking an eyebrow, Izuku used infinity to block the blue flames that erupted from every cell of Kai. Not doing much to Izuku, he sent a quirk burst of bloodlust, making the dragon weaker by 50%, allowing the young man to get in closer, and trying to get some of his pent-up anger out, he used the Devil's Gauntlet special ability of increasing his immense strength by another 30%. Punching the dragon in the head, Kai flew head first into the ground dead, due to the shockwave of the punch munching his brain, making the monster brain dead. Great Fire Dragon Kai had been defeated. Defeated. 3/8. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Smiling, he said one word, arise. With that 60 lizards, 50 Dracos and the boss all arose. Kai's form didn't change much, with the exception of his wings being larger. The lizards all kept their original shape but grew 20 centimeters taller. Finally, the Dracos had more of the black smoke that contrasted with the orange shadow. ILV.5, Commander, Fire Dragon. 50 Fire Draco LV.33, Elite Knight. 20 Ash Lizard LV.7, Elite Knight. 20 Blazing Lizard LV.7, Elite Knight. 20 Flamethrowing Lizard LV.7, Elite Knight. But with the addition of the 111 new shadows, a new notification came into Izuku's sight. Skill. Shadow Extraction leveled up from LV.1 to LV.2. Job-specific skill. No mana required. The Shadow Soldier is created from a body without life by taking out its mana. The chance of failure increases the higher the target stats are and the more time passed since the target's death. Shadows able to be extracted. 914 1,000ths to 914 2,500ths. This led to the job-specific skill to be leveled up. Izuku was actually getting worried of not being able to get more shadows. Skill. Save shadow leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. Job specific skill. No mana required. You absorb created shadow soldiers and save them. Saved soldiers can be summoned and reabsorbed whenever and wherever the animator desires. The storage will increase at a faster rate. Saved shadows. 914 916 to 914 2000s. Now I won't need to worry about the saved shadow limit, but I like the 20/20th 20/50th method so far. Izuku thought to himself. Just imagine if I became evil, gosh, no one would be able to stop me. Then Izuku smacked himself. What the fuck? Since when did I start becoming arrogant? I am sure there are more powerful beings in the world than myself. Oh, that was true, Izuku hasn't yet seen the supernatural properly. The only saving power he has to survive against the more powerful ones was his infinity, but it is still costly. Izuku is only a high commander grade himself and soon will reach the next level of rank. He is theoretically ranked as an international level hero threat, but barely no one know of it as true power, as he doesn't need to use the full capabilities of it. Mizuchi, Terador, Kai. Who do you think we should go to next? Izuku asked his 3 commanders. It was surprisingly Kai who replied, our sister who can control poisons, my liege. Her ability isn't harmful to us anymore. Izuku nodded, I too have resistance to all poisons, so let's go to your sister. With that the army of 900 continued forward. If anyone would have seen the army, the 3 large dragons with Tusk and Fluffy being in a similar size, would piss their pants, but with the hundreds of other shadows, anyone who wasn't foolish would run, but where? You have entered the Great Posian Dragon domain. Straight away, you could see the ground burping green and purple smoke that could be identified as poison. One of Izuku's shadows touched it and to their surprise some of the skin corroded, but other than that it regenerated. The sky was colored a dark blue-purple, Izuku could see dozens of small lizards flying downwards. One of the species didn't have any legs, but wings. The snake-like lizard was purple and constantly produced a purple gas from their mouths, but Izuku saw when it closed its mouth, then the gas stopped being produced. Poisonous flying serpent. The next species produced liquid from all over their body. Sadly they didn't have wings as their counterparts, but similar to the rolling rocking lizards, had a longer tail and thicker skin. The tail was wagging like an excited dog starting to spray the poisonous liquid at the shadows. Poison spraying lizard. The final species was significantly smaller than the other 2, only being half a meter tall and a meter long. It had fangs and more of bat-shaped wings. With the keen eyes of Izuku, he could see some kind of poison dripping down the fangs. Poisonous fanged lizard. Then hundreds, over 1,000 for sure of those species started to appear and surround the group. But as always, the shadows ranked lower than the LV.7 elite knights had some trouble, but the ones higher started to obliterate the enemy. Over 3 minutes when the commanders, general and the liege just stood there chatting when the next wave of the lizards and the serpents appeared. Gabriel had to occasionally shoot 1 or 2 serpents down with her light magic, whilst Izuku continued with his darkness overlord shadow training, trying to level that skill up. Finally some of the Dracos started to appear. The purple-skinned Dracos had characteristics of all 3 of the lizard serpent. That was a cannon-type mechanism on its back that could shoot blobs of poison, thicker claws and fangs that could produce poison, and from its mouth, you could occasionally see poisonous gas being produced. Poison manipulating Draco. Sending more shadow spikes that impaled dozens of the Dracos, the notification that Izuku was waiting for actually came. Skill. Darkness Overlord leveled up from LV.1 to LV.2 evolved. The combination of the skill. Shadow manipulation and skill. Black Whip, second gift from All Might's predecessors, evolved into a superior control over darkness and its shadows. Now, Izuku could feel more from his shadow tendrils and the shadows around. Using that to his advantage, from every enemy shadow in the radius of 300 meters, a spike that produced spikes from its edges was produced. This slaughter efficiently killed off 458 enemies. Damn. Izuku muttered. You leveled up. Impressive, my liege, I feel that my sister will be coming soon. Mizuchi commented to her master. The Great Poison Dragon was awakened. Great Poison Dragon Jinx. The dragon, who was purple in color, started to come out of her cave. The horns that she had on her head was something to be impressed about. All horns had the length of 2 meters at the minimum, with a dark purple at the core and a light purple at the ends. The 2 wings produced a purple gas. She had claws that could dig deep into anything, and her tail had dense muscle to smash anything away. Truly a deadly but a beautiful combination, a poison named Jinx. Straight away, Jinx shot straight into the air, followed by the purple dragon shooting globs of poison down into the soilders. This poison acted more like acid for some reason, but nevertheless the 3 shadow dragons and the wyvern shot straight up to defeat their sister. Izuku on the other hand wanted to try something. With Darkness Overlord he started to cover himself with the shadows and straighting to solidify them. The shape doesn't look too bad, it gives me extra protection. Then Izuku started to move with this piece of armor. I am slower by 10% than usual. I guess I need to invest into armor if I want my base protection to be higher. This is what Izuku was thinking. He swatted a glob of poison shot by Jinx like it was nothing and began to think. What should I do? I could still level my other skills higher. I still have 3 more All Might's precursor quirks to receive apparently. This time he slapped a lizard coming his way, killing it. On Wednesday I am taking my classmates to a gate, and this Saturday I have a meeting with chat. Izuku still doesn't know about his father's death nor the S-rank meeting. Oh well, if I get stronger now it will be a chill week. But that Izuku used sprint, flight and gravity manipulation to get towards Jinx, and with the quick use of his Mangekyou Sharingan, he summoned the Susanu's hand that had the spear. The spear went through the skin, digging into the heart of the dragon, killing it. Defeated. 4/8. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. He then looked around and saw the damage caused by the 4 dragons and the wyvern. Izuku's sweat dropped and spoke. Sorry, was in my head. The others just shook their heads seeing their liege. Shall not worry my liege. Terator spoke in his formal tone. Using flight to lower himself down, Izuku spoke arise. With that 20 of each lizard species, 50 Dracos and Jinx arose. All looked similar with only poisonous fanged lizards being a little longer with larger fangs. Jinx LV.7 Commander Poison Dragon. 50 Poison Draco LV.35. 20 Poisonous Fanged Lizard LV.9. 20 Poisonous Flying Serpent LV.9. 20 Poison Spraying Lizard LV.9. Yosh, another domain completed. Which one should we go to next? Izuku asked his draconic friends. Jinx spoke up, her voice had some seduction in it, but Izuku thought it was how she normally talked. We should go to our wind brother, he can negate our lightning brother's attack easier than we could. Izuku nodded and the group went towards the wind domain. With Najire. At the beginning of the weekend, she was tasked to go to an island of the coast of Japan with 2 of her classmates. Luckily it wasn't Mirio or Tamaki, but the duo was boring for her to hand out with. The trio was tasked to help out with the multiple gates that was present, as they were joined with the local heroes to help them. So that was Najire's Saturday. Only when she came out of her 3rd dungeon that day could she see what the news was on about. After checking the UA website, a lone tear came out of her eye. She may have not met Hisashi more than twice, but she knew that it was too early for him to go. She knew that Izuku would probably arise him to have a final talk with him, but Najire knew that Izuku didn't like people be turned into a shadow. Heck, she knew that Izuku barely turned the Akatsuki into his shadows, but Izuku knew that he has to have strong allies for a reason or another. Seeing that her harem sister was in a fight earlier that day, she called Rumi to make sure she was alright. Najire knew that Izuku was going to complete a gate from his system today, and as both were busy they couldn't go with him. Thinking about that, Najire had some thoughts as she overheard the conversation between 3 of Izuku's classmates. Too bad for the 3, Izuku always seems to escape them when they are trying to ask him out. That kind of cheered her up from the depressing thoughts that her future father-in-law was dead. She sighed and started to stretch her muscles. There was another D-rank gate that they needed to complete today, as on Sunday it would break. I hope the teachers are being smart of what they are doing. With that she gone to eat something quickly. With Nezu. Izuku did mention that he will be gone the weekend. He didn't know how long that gate would take him, Nezu thought to himself. It was 10 PM in Japan and he was going to bed shortly to keep his pristine coat shiny. Typing away on his keyboard, he was looking at some documents that he was sent some time earlier, so the HPSC is cutting funding completely towards UA for the stunt. More blackmail. Then looking at another screen, UA isn't doing that badly with money. More donations have been placed in thanks mainly due to Izuku studying here. Most of All Might salary that isn't spent on Might Towers is also being sent in here. That was something that a lot of AU alumni did send some donations to UA, so the next generation would have better equipment or other facilities. Even the moody Endeavor was sending around 10% of his disposable income, so that Shoko and Shoto had it better. All in all, UA had a lot of money to spend. Nezu was planning something with the help of Izuku and Power Loader that needed some of the money, but that would still take a minimum of 3 months to implement. With 1A. It was late at night when everyone was still downstairs discussing about the hero fight with Inomu and what happened to Izuku's father. Denki asked something more random. Izuku sure does have it shit, all because he became a national level, his family became in danger, responsibilities, and other stuff. Imagine all of the stress he is going through. Denki was becoming smarter as he didn't fry his brain that often anymore. Tenya continued, that may be true, just imagine his reaction of discovering what happened to his father. Does anyone know his timetable for the next week? Momo asked anyone. Tatsumi remembered some bits, he is going back to France on Saturday. On Wednesday we are going in with him to a gate, but that is what he told me. Momo nodded, when he comes back, let's make him relax. That is such a manly thing to do. What does he like to do to relax? Ijiro asked as he was unsure of what Izuku likes. Katsumi comes in and rescues the class. Since he died, Izuku loves hiking. Although a somber tone was used for some reason. Michiko asked in a gentle tone, since who? Shaking her head, a glare was sent to Mina. It is none of your business, pink cheeks. Watching the stars. Heian spoke lightly. Cuddles. Shoko spoke out loud. There was some face palms heard in the class. In Russia. Two people looked over at a gate. It is reading S rank, sir. The younger woman had a worried look on her face. Grunting, the man spoke, get Team Alpha, this is the first S rank gate in Russia, so we will need to deal with it. After a second of consideration, if anything goes wrong, I will be meeting Vladimir. Wonder who would win if Vladimir would face Monarch. A chuckle was heard, not the creepy, but a fascinating one. The woman was in shock. Team Alpha was a group of 12 S-rank heroes who also go by the name of Hunters. The group could do anything they wanted within limit of course, but when the government called for the group to do a mission, then they have to complete it. They have never failed so far. Then some snow came and the two disappeared into thin air. But the creator. The power of his is weakening once again. He pushed a bit of his power to gradually enter into his system. That is a reason why Izuku was leveling up faster than average now. A couple of months is how long I can hold them. Please get stronger, my creation. You have entered the Great Wind Dragon domain. It was windy, not the light breeze or the tornadoes that some may experience. It was an annoying type of wind that makes you want to close your eyes, but continue like it was nothing. Whilst strong winds would try to get you off your feet, your senses would be up to the maximum, but here the breeze was trying to mess with the senses of one Izuku Midoriya. The surroundings was most probably the most beautiful so far, the green fields that had some water running through. The sky for some magical reason was all blue, allowing you to see some flying lizards. And again. That was the thought of one Izuku Midoriya as he sent out a massive pulse of bloodlust that caused some of the lizard or the serpents to fall to the ground. I wonder if that skill will be evolving or something. But that the massacre happened all over again. As this was happening, the levels of the army grew, allowing less of the shadows to be easily destroyed by the wind attacks. Wind blasting serpent. Wind cutting lizard. Mini tornado lizards. As the name suggests, the light blue wind blasting serpents had no feet, but their wind attacks had the most wide area power. The wind-cutting lizards had the ability of using their wings to make air slashes, being able to cut down some of the shadows. Finally, the most annoying, mini tornado lizards created tornadoes, and with them being in the eye of the storm. The poisonous and the flame type of lizards had the most trouble with dealing with the wind. This made them get inside the guard of the wind type, defeating some. The waves of those increased exponentially, even making some of the more lower-level captains sweat, if they could of course. Sometimes number is the key to be able to win, but as luck has it, the general and the commanders took waves of the enemies down without a scratch being done. Sometimes I feel like I am just meant to destroy. I wonder how Dad's doing. He should be meeting with me this week. Oh, if he knew. Izuku made a bow and arrows with Darkness Overlord, but this time didn't add any fire, as wind can deflect fire to some extent. But that multiple arrows started to hit the enemy. Sadly, that didn't make a scratch in the numbers, but allows Izuku to practice his hand-eye coordination, right? Wind manipulating Draco. Now the second level of annoyance comes after an hour of slaughtering its brethren. The light blue slim-figured mini dragons that had the most aerodynamic wings from all of the dragons came flying from above. Izuku would call them suicidal, but they actually did damage, like the kamikaze attacks, trying to swing down and cut a few heads, but most of the time flying to their deaths. Even if the Dracos had sharp claws, most of the army had a way of protecting against that type of enemy. Izuku quickly used flight to join the fight from above. Using gravity manipulation, he started to pull the surrounding Dracos towards one point, then using red crushed the 50 or so Dracos. I should really increase the passive skill of hand-to-hand, and who else than the ones that could kill most heroes. With a smirk, Izuku went in unarmed, with the only protection was the armor he wore. Flight was used to make the fighting field even, and Izuku started a beautiful dance that took many Dracos down. Crushing the bodies, snapping wings, using the tail as a bat, those were a few of the many ways Izuku was dealing with the army of the wind manipulating Dracos. After some time, some peace came over the area with Izuku appreciating the scenery, as if you looked at it properly, ignoring the dead lizards, serpents and Dracos' bodies. Izuku started to think more. I wish I could see the experience I gain or need for every skill or even my level. That would be useful to know. Hand-to-hand expert LV.4, 23%. Hand-to-hand expert LV.4 LV.4 LV.5, 20%. So yea or nay? Danger. Like always, Izuku realized that most probably the boss dragon awakened. Looking around in the air, he couldn't see the dragon yet. The Great Wind Dragon was awakened. The Great Wind Dragon Aurora. Straight away, to everyone's surprise, over 60% of the army that included 2 commander-class dragons became shadows. Seeing that 30,000 MP had gone to restore the shadows, Izuku activated his Sharingan and saw a large light blue dragon. The small eggs that Aurora possessed seemed like it was only used for moving into a more lying position. The wings on the other hand was something to be amazed at. The long but sharp light blue wings that shined like 1,000 stars was ready to fly down to destroy more of the army. Not wanting to waste more MP for the shadow restoration, Izuku pumped MP into flight and shot towards Aurora. The speed that Aurora possessed was something to also be amazed. It was as fast as Izuku using Sprint, Hero's Boots Boost, a weapon to fight the opponent that also gives a 10% boost on the ground. In air he was no match yet. This was his goal now, to be able to fly as fast as Aurora. Sending a pulse bloodlust to hopefully slow down the opponent, he had to dodge a wind slash that came from the unaffected dragon. Seeing that some of his shadow soldiers turned into shadows, he shouted, "Concentrate on getting the others dealt with. I will defeat Aurora." He knew that Gabriel would want to help him as she was the fastest in the army surprisingly. Even if she was a general, the rank lower than the commander dragons. Gabriel was meant to be one of the fastest in the angelic circle. Now Izuku knew that there would be a faster shadow, of course if Izuku arose Aurora. Flying some distance, making the dragon follow Izuku, but before coming closer to Izuku, another wind slash was sent towards the army of shadows. Luckily Terator blocked most of the attack, saving a lot of the shadow soldiers. Izuku TSK and shot multiple gravitation blasts of blue towards the dragon. Aurora dodged all of them in a graceful manner that Izuku could become hypnotized with the way her movements spin. Izuku could barely see Aurora with his normal sight, so the Sharingan was a needed bet. Then the Monarch remembered something that made a smirk crawl on his face, Domain of the Monarch. This may be the most powerful skill excluding the shadow saving and extracting that allowed Izuku have his army strength be 50% greater. Summoning his spear, Izuku rushed towards the dragon, and when he wanted to stab it towards Aurora, Izuku summoned Kusanagi in the air and used mana to extended the length making the dragon barely dodge. Being able to communicate mentally with his shadows was a boon, as Aurora thought that no shadow would help Izuku, but the green had asked for a couple of seconds head start, so an advantage could be made. The one that arrived was Mizuchi and Gabriel. Mizuchi was the only useful dragon that won't have any attacks being. Terator didn't have wings, Kai's fire could have been turned back towards the island. Then in the ground, when Aurora hit a massive crater was formed. Using this opportunity, Terator caused multiple earth spikes to be impaled inside of the wind dragon, finally killing it. The great wind dragon Aurora has been defeated. Defeated. 5/8. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Skill. Flight is leveled up from LV.3 to LV.4. Ability to use the air like a playground. An evolved first gift of the 6 from All Might's predecessor. 10 MP per minute of use. Smiling slightly, Izuku spoke, "Arise." Not only did Aurora rise, but the specific amount of lizards, serpents and dracos too. Izuku decided that he would arise a higher number of the light and dark army compared to the elemental ones. Aurora LV.9, Commander. 50 Wind Draco LV.37, Elite Knight. 20 Wind Blasting Serpent LV.11, Elite Knight. 20 Wind Cutting Lizard LV.11, Elite Knight. 20 Mini Tornado Lizard LV.11, Elite Knight. Smiling at them, Izuku saw the differences in appearance. Aurora had no more legs and what seemed to be stronger wings on her back. The Wind Dracos had stronger wings but also sharper claws. The only serpent race of the 3 low elites had longer wings, whilst the wind-cutting lizard had sharper wings. Finally the mini tornado lizards had a slimer body that covered a larger surface area for the optimum use of the winds. You sure were fast then, Aurora. Izuku chuckled as he patted the large light blue dragon nose. Then looking around, Izuku asked just to make sure, "We have the lightning one next, right?" He saw that some of his clothes had cuts on them, most probably from the wind attacks. "Yes my liege, our brother who controls lightning is the final out of the 6 younger siblings. Then we have our older siblings." Izuku nodded to Kai who replied. Izuku looked at his fatigue level and nodded, it was fatigue. 9/100ths. He wasn't concerned as per level he gets it lowers automatically by 10. Let's go to the lightning domain. After that we can rest. Getting nods from his soldiers, the group of 1100 went towards the last domain. You have entered the Great Lightning Dragon domain. It was only a 30-minute walk with the domain pass, but this domain looked a mess. Dark clouds soured over them with lightning strikes being seen in the sky and occasionally hitting the ground. The dark atmosphere was only enhanced with the mountains that lacked any form of life bar the enemies. Dark blue, dark violet and dark purple was seen coming towards them with lightning already trying to hit the shadows. The front lines that was made up of wind dracos and wind type lizards all formed some type of wind wall that was only enhanced with by the angels. Isum shot a massive water wave at the lizards that when Aurora blew some cold wind on it, turning the water and ice, impaling some of the lizards. Lightning Lizard Archer. Lightning Fury Lizard. Lightning Blasting Lizard. The Archer Lizard was dark blue, the dark purple was the Fury, whilst the Blasting Lizard was dark purple. The three colors allowed some sort of camouflage in this specific domain. Taking the light yellow named lizards was easy, even Kaisel that had a lower level compared to the other lizards clawed some to death, but sadly some injuries were sustained. Suddenly, the Lightning Fury lizards started to fly, and their speed was of a high elite Knight low captain. This destroyed some of the shadows as the Fury was covered in lightning, but its defense was the lowest out of the three lizards, allowing them to be cut down easily. Izuku seeing that a lot of the lizards were dead, he saved some trouble and spoke, "Arise." With that out of the couple of hundred that died, 60 of the lizards arose as with Izuku instructions. The color palette stayed the same, but became darker to fit with the shadow theme. 20 Lightning Lizard Archer LV.12, Elite Knight. 20 Lightning Fury Lizard LV.12, Elite Knight. 20 Lightning Blasting Lizard LV.12, Elite Knight. Smiling at his lizardy friends, the 60 joined in the fight against their ex-brethren. This allowed Izuku to continue with his training. Gravity manipulation was handy, throwing some lizards that could cause low S ranks trouble like it was nothing made Gabriel giggle from behind him. "You are having fun, darling." She flew downwards standing near Izuku. Smiling at his girlfriend, Izuku spoke, "I am trying to level my skills up. Anyways, what you feeling that you are not the strongest in the army, Tenshi?" The cute pout appeared on Gabriel's face. "I actually don't mind, darling. I am satisfied being near you, although we would have to see what was the deal with the appearance of Trunk." She didn't mention, "I am also happy that this is taking a long period of time. The plans of the three classmates of Darling won't happen this week." Gabriel actually didn't mind them, don't get it wrong, but it was quite funny making their attempts of asking Izuku out be prolonged. Lightning Manipulation Draco. Out of the sky, Dracos that were colored dark purple with some sparkles from their skin flew downwards shooting gusts of electricity. Soon the sky was filled with all of the Dracos and angels battling it out. Sasori somehow managed to make his puppets to soar upwards and start to shoot some Dracos down. More lightning started to cover the sky with Aurora, Jinx, Kai and Mizuchi all starting to take to the air. Izuku realizing what was happening used float to fly up soon joined by Gabriel. Danger. The Great Lightning Dragon was awakened. Great Lightning Dragon Ashni. The lightning was filled with lightning making the bleak surroundings to light up from the light being produced. A massive roar was heard then the silhouette of Ashni was seen. Great Lightning Dragon Ashni is using the skill. Terror from above. All of the clouds started to grumble until lightning was being produced hitting the ground consistently. Izuku used Infinity that also covered up Gabriel as he held her hand. The majority of the lightning strikes were aimed where the 5 commanders, the general and the liege stood. The 5 commander dragons barely took any damage, whilst some like Pain took none as he absorbed the lightning. Great Lightning Dragon Ashni is using the skill. 1000 lightnings. He sure likes to use his skills. Izuku joked about, whilst the 1000 lightnings shot out of the mouth of the large dragon that had shiny skin that resembles a clear night sky. This time those lightning strikes did do damage to the army, but all of the shadows moved and not stood like complete idiots waiting for the enemy to make the attack ready. Aurora shot a massive wind wall to block Ashni's lightning blocking some, with Terrator shooting earth spikes from the ground. Izuku sent out a couple of reds to make the lightning dragon move. I went flying forwards and roared a massive wave of fire that was countered by the majestic Ashni's lightning attack. The two attacks clashed in the middle, making an explosion to Akir that had Dodara have stars in his eyes. Using this opportunity, Aurora pushed wind making Kai's fire stronger, whilst Jinx infused some of her poison into the attack. You could see that Ashni was having trouble and tried to retreat, but Mizuchi stopped him by being behind him and shooting spikes of ice at her brother. Roaring in pain, Ashni tried to get some airspace, but soon was punched by Izuku towards Gabriel, who used her light magic to cause further damage into the lightning dragon's body. Terrator once again shot some earth constructs, but this time were cannons. Ashni was dodging them as his life was depending on it, but with the quick use of Kai's fire launchers, one of the winds of Ashni was burnt, allowing Izuku to throw his spear through the body of Ashni killing it. Defeated. 6/8. The Great Lightning Dragon Ashni was defeated. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Lowering himself down, Izuku walked up to the body of Ashni and said one simple command, "Arise." With that a shadow that was the sparkliest, shiniest, magnifique came out somehow. Ashni is what Izuku chose for the name of the dark purple shadow soldier. The only other color was the electric blue eyes the lightning dragon held that could pierce any being its presence looked upon. Ashni LV.11, Commander. My liege. Ashni spoke whilst bowing. Izuku smiled and patted the dragon on its snout. Good to have you here, Ashni. Now, arise. With the same command, 50 Dracos arose to join Izuku's shadow army. The color became darker, it seemed like they were one with the night, but also visible to some extent. 50 Lightning Draco LV.39, Elite Knight. Let's rest up guys, I would like to get some sleep. Izuku smiled at his shadows who bowed and formed a perimeter of some kind. Next day. Izuku woke up with Gabriel by his side, smiling lightly he kissed her forehead and sat up. Looking around, he saw that all of the bodies let from the fight were collected and placed in his storage area. Like every other domain, Izuku left a dozen or so shadows to collect the bodies and place it in his inventory so he could sell it and get some gold out of it. He still has no idea where the sold items go, but Izuku theorized that the materials he gave into the system somehow is remade into his stats. Crazy, right? Seeing that his girlfriend is waking up, he spoke in a gentle tone, "Morning, sleepyhead." "Good morning, darling." Gabriel sat up whilst trying to get out the sleep out of her eyes. A light kiss was shared between the two when Izuku got up and started to stretch his body up. "We have 2 more dragons to go to, the light and the dark ones if I am not mistaken." Izuku then looked at one of his commanders. "Which one do you think we should go up against next?" He started to prepare some breakfast for him to eat. Gabriel joined him soon. It was Mizuchi who answered, "I recommend for us to deal with our sister who controls darkness. I do warn you my liege, her army will be structured much different." I nodded his head, "The same as with our other elder sister, my liege." The two of them had lived for much longer than us 6, making them have stronger armies on their beck and call. Ashni spoke up next. "It is like yin and yang, it will be hard to defeat one without the other, but with the angel forces, they could help deal more damage to the dark forces, my liege." Izuku nodded and smiled at them. "Thanks guys. Let's start heading to the darkness domain them." During the flight there, Izuku ate the light breakfast he prepared so he could be ready for the next 2 fights. Smirking, he looked up and thought, "Would you be proud of me, bro?" With that his eyes sharpened as he looked at the area he was going into. "You have entered the great darkness dragon domain." He had shivers going up his spine. Everything was black. The waters, black. The ground, dead, black and full of skeletons. The sky, cloudy and dark blocking the moonlight. Looking around, Izuku activates his Sharingan and spoke to his army. "Get ready, some are coming." Gabriel, who was the de facto leader for the angels, shouted, "Get ready angels." With that magic circles appeared from those who she specified. Darkness bringing lizard. Dark sniper lizard. Assassin lizard. Those 3 were light yellow in name, whilst the Draco was a solid yellow. The 3 types of lizards did look nearly the same, but the sniper type had a tail similar to the earth-shooting lizard, and the assassin had sharper claws. Darkness manipulating Draco. Quirking an eyebrow, Izuku thought, "Are those the lowest of the bunch?" The pure black scales that shone no light back was a scary sight to behold for a lesser man. The pure black strong wings of the 2-meter-tall Draco, it also seemed to have spikes coming out of its back. Izuku looked at the ground and widened his eyes fractionally. They were dark yellow and light orange names. He knew that the colors started to mean nothing, as defeating a red name in 5 minutes was nothing to him nowadays with his skills. Serpents of darkness. 3-headed serpent. Black eye crocodile. The 2 serpents looked nothing like the previous serpents in his army. The first difference was their length. It was comparing a mini car to a London bus. Secondly, one of them had 3 heads. Crazy, right? Lastly, a crocodile type. They lived in the waters, but Izuku knew from the eyes that they have a few skills that make them to be in the captain class. It was still weird for him that only a couple months ago he could barely defeat a knight class, and now he is facing monsters that could give All Might a run for his money. So the barrage of attacks began. It seemed like that both armies are in some kind of standstill, until the commanders of Izuku's army used one of their special moves, destroying 30% of the forces. Some escaped or had darkness protect them, especially the captain class serpents and crocodiles. The lizards are killing of the weaker of Izuku's shadows, making Izuku's MP deplete faster than any other domain. Whilst the Dracos held of the 600 other Dracos to a standstill. The captain class shadows that numbered 26 strong had a much lighter time dealing with the captain class. Izuku, Gabriel and the commanders interfered when necessary or when a free area was given access. What made the crocodiles so dangerous was their strength, near impenetrability and the dark mist that was produced from their mouths. That mist acted similar to the poison from the poison dragons, making the shadows start to deshidofi. Whilst the serpents held up to their mythological standpoint as their strength, venom and intelligence was higher than was high in the captain level. Surprisingly, or not so, Burrow and Mikao were the main driving forces against them with a surprising shadow, Dodara who blows his enemies from their insides. Trying to make the fight towards his side, Izuku concentrated in his right hand making a red appear. Then in his left hand a blue appeared. Slowly, he moved the hands closer together to form what he was trying to make for a long time, purple. Seeing that he made a wrong mixture to combine the two, and not wanting to have it all blow up in his face, Izuku flicked them. The red ball of repelling gravitational force shredded multiple monsters, whilst the blue ball absorbed 5% of the enemies into it. I guess I still have a long way to go. That was the only thought going through Izuku's head. Seeing as one of the lizards from the assassin claws was getting close, Izuku summoned a dagger and stabbed it straight through the monster's chest using Vital Strike. Yeah, he needed to level his skills up. Arise. With this simple command, a new force just joined Izuku, making the tides turn more in Izuku's direction. He was using float to hover above ground with his dark hair with green tips flowing with the battle wind. His eyes had a blue tint to it with some fog coming out of it, but with an overused skill, he said, domain of the Monarch. Sea of purple was what was seen, no matter what color the creature was before, now they all had a purple glow in them. 20 darkness bringing lizard LV.14, elite knight. 20 dark sniper lizard LV.14, elite knight. 20 assassin lizard LV.14, elite knight. 50 darkness, Draco LV.1, captain. 50 serpents of darkness LV.10, captain. 53 headed serpent LV.10, captain. 50 black eye, crocodile LV.10, captain. The addition of 260 new shadows allowed Izuku's army to shine as they supposed to, ripping, slashing and killing all of their opponents. I wonder what is next. Izuku thought to himself as he sent out his lance of long ina spear with spear throw and fire manipulation skills placed into it. Usually Dracos show up by now, but I won't lie, at this rate only Gabriel, the dragon commanders and some of my captains can survive this onslaught. Like his prayers been heard upon, a new species appeared. Danger. Izuku turns 180 degrees around and blocks with Samehada from a slash from a 3-meter tall monster. It was pure black with the only visible color was the whites in the eyes, but that was still barely visible. Activating his Sharingan, Izuku saw that there was some kind of mist coming out of the dragon. He still had yet to realize that he was in one of the enemy monarch's armies. But the creator. The bearded old man that looked to have aged even more spoke to no one. You may not be able to defeat them all at once with your current skills, but defeating some of the armies of my children will surely slow them down. Although he did feel pity that Izuku's father died, as he saw everything that was going in the world. This said creator was the thing that made the world, universe. This includes the second strongest being after itself, Akka, the sealed Trihexa, Office, Great Red, the monarchs, the biblical god, Zeus, and so on at the beginning of time, or more specifically after sneezing and whipping the dinosaurs out. He couldn't and help but chuckle to see his chosen champion reaction, seeing that humans are not the only species. Back with Izuku. Dark Apprentice Hatchling. Seeing the name being orange, Izuku pulled out Samehada to his other to try and slash at the monster in front of him. But to his surprise, the hatchling dissolved into dark mist. This is similar to my Kamui ability. Izuku thought as he flew down to earth, and seeing that his army is starting to get overwhelmed, he placed both hands on the floor. Using wood style from Obito's power, he used just over 10,000 MP to make a forest that had wooden spikes coming from its branches, killing more of his enemies. He leveled up. Using infinity to not get hit by the sniper lizard shot, he turned around. With gravity manipulation he started bringing up the enemy dragons, and finally created a blue, destroying many in that instance. He looked over at his girlfriend and saw she was dealing with half a dozen hatchlings. He recalled his spear and shot it at some of the apprentices, killing one, but the others turned to mist to only solidify in another area. Thanks, darling. Gabriel smiled and formed a large magic circle shooting out. Izuku smirked at his girlfriend. No problem, Tenshi. With this the grind continued for some time. The apprentice dragon that had the ability of turning into shadows to not get hit by any attacks was a pain. The positive was that the angels are gaining more experience compared to the other shadows. This is due to their light magic being harmful for the entities born of darkness. If Izuku and his army went towards the light domain first, only the vampires that have some sort of shadow manipulation could deal damage, which is significantly less than the angel shadow population. After some time, Izuku figured out a way more efficient way of dealing with the dark apprentice hatchlings. Using the spear that is light imbued in it, he used sprint to start defeating his enemies faster. This resulted in a skill leveling up. Skill. Weapons expert leveled up from LV.5 to LV.6. This furthermore increased Izuku's speed to 15% when he has a weapon. Looking over his shoulder, he saw Igris and Baruka fighting hand by hand. He may need to get more of the hatchlings compared to the other species, but he will have to see. Danger. He awaited this. Izuku knew that he will have to fight one of the two elder sisters of his commanders, but he did not expect this. The Great Darkness Dragon was awakened. Great Darkness Dragon Acnologia. Acnologia was nearly 1.5 of the size of her younger siblings. 4 massive jet black wings sprouting from its back in such a fashion, you could mistake them as clouds. Izuku from the first glance could see that Acnologia will be the strongest enemy he has to face, now maybe he would need to fight at full strength. Finish of the everyone else and protect the angels, the enemy knows that they are the focal point to our attack. Izuku said that as he used fire manipulation to weaken and destroy some shadow attacks. One might ask about why isn't Izuku using Darkness Overlord. That is simple. The hatchlings apparently had the same control power as him over that element. Hatchlings, that was Izuku's thought. Ashni, Aurora and Kai, can you deal with your elder sister for a minute? After getting 3 nods, Izuku lowered himself downwards and spoke one word, turning the tides of the battle once again, arise. Like Izuku wanted, 100 of the hatchlings arose, the reason for the number? Because it was cool. The hatchlings stayed the same size, but now their skin color was pure black, but their eyes had an electric blue whenever they are not hiding. 100, Darkness Hatchlings LV.25, Captain. Go. With this simple command, the 100 hatchlings rushed and started dealing with the enemy. Izuku joined the 3 dragon commanders fighting their elder sister, Acnologia. Darkness seeped out of her mouth, ready to strike, but one thing was clear, she did not expect 30 hatchlings to rush into her, biting her full force on the sides. A massive roar was heard. Izuku used this opportunity and threw his spear at the neck of the dragon. Some of the damage was mitigated by Acnologia turning some of her body into shadows, but Territor showed multiple earth spikes through her body that was on the floor. Aurora shot massive wind cuts powered up by Kai's fire. This was the death of Aurora. Going to the still body, Izuku spoke, arise Acnologia. You leveled up. You leveled up. You leveled up. Great Darkness Dragon Acnologia has been defeated. Defeated 7/8. Acnologia LV.30, Commander, Darkness Dragon. The massive black shadow came out with 2 pairs of black wings coming out of her back. The imposing figure was soon changed as Izuku came closer. A smile came on the large entity face, my liege. Acnologia bowed her head, showing the proper respect. The greenette smiled back at her and nodded, now we have one more domain to deal with, then we can leave. Nods and bows came all around the area. Izuku once again left some of the lower ranking shadows to collect the remains and anything valuable so that it could be put into his inventory. Izuku looked around and saw the others in his army. Non looked tired as he still had mana reserves. Bear was looking down, with a pout on his face. Igris was listening to Baruka, whilst a hatchling stayed near the 2. Gabriel was slowly coming towards him with a smile on her face. It took some time to get to the last domain. This will be the last dragon, and then I can finally go home. Izuku thought to himself as he was walking at a comfortable pace. All of his shadows bar Gabriel returned to his shadow, so there wasn't an intimidation factor or even an earthquake following him. Darling, what are your plans after we come back? She asked him. Neither knew what actually happened on the outside of the gate, only knew that a new Nomu joined the army. After figuring what caused the Nomu to appear in inventory. I promised my class to enter a gate, it will most likely be a B-rank gate. Finally, I will be going to Paris to meet Adrian. The Shadow Monarch explained. It sure was weird having a new Nomu soldier coming in, I hope the rabbit didn't die. Gabriel spoke out her thoughts. Wanting to tease his girlfriend, Izuku spoke, oh, is someone worried about Bun Bun? A smirk appeared on his face. Gabriel just huffed, I won't have anyone's butt to kick, darling. Izuku just chuckled, we are here. You have entered the Great Light Dragon domain. The scenery was similar to heaven, but this time Izuku had his eyes adjust to the brightness level longer than he had liked. The sky was bright blue with the sun shining with more intensity, but not heating the area above the comfort zone. The clear streams running through the hills that had vegetation growing all around. A clear contrast to what was the darkness domain. Danger. This was the only sign that allowed Izuku to dodge the attack. A semi-transparent light beam flew through the location he was standing at. Looking around and having to expand his senses, he could sense lifeforms. Using bloodlust with the use of Darkness Overlord, Izuku was able to shoot a small creature out of hiding. Similar to the light beam, the transparency was turned off with the body hitting the ground. Lizard of Light. Light Sniper Lizard. Lizard of Purification. The 3 lizard types all are somewhat similar in nature. The Lizard of Light had its wings made of light. Light Sniper Lizard had a light tail waiting to strike, and finally the Lizard of Purification had light coming out of its mouth. All had white scales with their eyes being the color of bright yellow. What do you say about fighting them, only the 2 of us? Izuku asked his Tenshi. Smiling her beautiful smile, she replied, I thought you would never ask, darling. With that the 2 without using any skills bar flight fought the hordes using hand-to-hand combat. It was another 5 minutes when another opponent was introduced. Izuku recognized the body shape as a Draco. It was larger than the lizards, but its difference was that it had no teeth. Light manipulating Draco. Smirking to each other, they increased the pace, dodging the light attacks. The light beams, light bullets, light breath and the monsters, nothing touched the duo. It was a beautiful dance of death. Skill. Hand-to-hand expert leveled up from LV.4 to LV.5. Smiling at the notification, Izuku pushed on but this time summoning Samehada. He started to tear away the enemy with ease and absorbing any magical attack they sent at him. It was another 15 minutes when reinforcements came for the lizards and Dracos. Serpent of Light. Light Whip Snake. Crocodile of Light. Light Apprentice Hatchling. 1,000 of creatures came in and now it was Izuku and Gabriel against most of the Light Domain's inhabitants. Smirking, Izuku spoke 2 words, "Come forth." With that massive roars came from Izuku's shadow as his army of over 1.5k engaged the enemy. Darkness against light, it was an even battle with the odds going towards Izuku's army as time continued thanks to the commanders. Light and darkness attacks cancelled each other out for most part, with the other shadows taking the opportunity and striking the enemy force down. The Great Light Dragon was awakened. Great Light Dragon Lolu. The majestic 4-winged white dragon roared, making the battlefield quiet. All of the commanders looked at their eldest sister that wasn't turned into their liege's army yet. The pure light that emanated from her body was similar to the Heaven's Castle Archangel's true forms that they sadly lost. Althat Lolu looked like a completely normal dragon, her power output said otherwise being able to match her twin Acnologia. With this chaos erupted. Great Light Dragon Lolu is using the skill. Sun's Light. One attack, this is what it was. Izuku was lucky that Acnologia wasn't able to do this kind of attack straight off the bat. Being near Gabriel, Izuku used Infinity to cover the both of them from the attack. As the sky was blue, clear, the attack of the sun gave damage to over 90% of Izuku's forces. Piercing, destruction, slashing. Izuku's army of over 1,500 reduced to a measly 12, with only the 7 dragon commanders, Gabriel, Mikao, Beru, Pina and Toby, were able to not get any damage or their damage was minimal at best. Then to counter-attack, all commanders shot out one of their most powerful elemental attacks, destroying the army of the Light Dragon. You leveled up. Now, Izuku rarely was worried, but seeing his MP. 7,934 133,430, he had to drink a potion that restored 10,000 MP, it costed him 2 million G. He had to finish this opponent as fast as he could. Not playing around, Izuku activated his Sharingan, used the skills, Sprint, Bloodlust, Flight, Infinity and Fire Manipulation to enhance himself so he could come closer to Lolu, and with cocking his fist back, he allowed the power to hit the dragon's main body. It was a combination for him to be able to have the least air resistance, maximum speed and a small time frame when Izuku's opponent won't be able to move. The next thing that happened was something that could be written in the history books, an explosion similar to Najair's new explosion release, but on a nuclear level. The dragon blew up into bits with the shockwave even pushing back the dragon shadows back. You have defeated Great Light Dragon Lolu. Defeated. 8/8. Quest. Dragon's Kingdom defeat the Great 8 has been completed. You leveled up. Wincing a bit from the damage, Izuku spoke his final command before opening his reward. Arise. As per tradition, the amount of shadow soldiers that Izuku wanted to rise up rose to become an ally of his. The interesting difference was that all of the shadows from this domain remained to have their white scales, but had black shadows coming from their eyes and some from their wings body. Lolu LV.31, Commander. 100, Light Hatchling LV.26, Captain. 50 Serpent of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Light Whip Snake LV.13, Captain. 50 Crocodile of Light LV.13, Captain. 50 Light Draco LV.3, Captain. 20 Lizard of Light LV.16, Elite Knight. 20 Lizard of Purification LV.16, Elite Knight. 20 Light Sniper Lizard LV.16, Elite Knight. Smiling slightly, he patted Lolu on her snout whilst she bowed. Izuku then looked at the quest. Quest. Dragon's Kingdom defeat the Great 8 completed. There are 8 different zones, and you need to go to each one to be able to leave the gate. Rewards. Reward 1. Reward 2. Reward 3. Defeated. 8/8. Reward 1 the green at thought. Reward 1. Skill. Bloodlust will now evolve to Dragon's Will. Looking curiously at it, he read what the new skill does. Skill. Dragon's Will, active. The final form of Bloodlust. 5 MP per minute your opponent will be intimidated and their stats will reduce by 60% if on the same level as yours or lower. If opponent's level is higher than yours, then opponent's stats will reduce by 10%. A figure of a dragon will appear behind you when the skill is in use. Pretty nice. Izuku thought, continuing the thought, Reward 2. Reward 2. Dragon Tear. An item Looking further he saw the description of the item. Dragon Tear. Item class. SS. Type. Enhancement. The tier from all of the dragons in the dragon dungeon combined. This enhancement item can be placed on an existing shadow soldier for their defense to increase 200% and their attacks to increase by 100%. Damn, I think I won't use it at the moment. Time will tell who I will use the tier on. Izuku mused to himself. Reward 3 please. Reward 3. You can level 1 active skill by 1 level. Izuku was a little disappointed as yes it was still a good reward, but he wouldn't lie, he expected something better. I think Infinity would be better leveled up as it is leveling slower than usual. And it was done as it was thought. Skill. Infinity leveled up from LV.2 to LV.3. Allows you to distort space and time at will. Main function is to make an infinity around you so no one and nothing can touch you. 500 MP to activate and 90 per second to keep up. Smiling at the gate being completed, he spoke out loud, "Okay guys, we will be going home now." With that all of his shadow soldiers went into his shadow bar his girlfriend. Outside the gate. Izuku's phone started pinging with messages, it was a tsunami of messages from dozens of people. Gabriel looked at Izuku for a second until she saw Izuku's face morph into horror. Earth started shaking, the skies rumbled, now she knew something happened. Barely catching a whisper and seeing a lone tear coming out of her boyfriend's eye, dad's dead. That's it guys. Thanks for watching and supporting us. See you in the next part.